say that I wasn't there for you when you went into hiding on the front steps of your porch, and I reflected on the memories, but I put out that torch. Hey! But I put out that torch. But I put out that torch. You make me feel like home. You turn around, I feel the breeze over me. You watch your dreams unfold. Let it come around and let it breathe over me. It's time to go away into the light. I feel the calming energy.
Good evening, fellow gamers. I'm Jake Superman Mori, and casting alongside me is the play-by-play paladin himself, Ben Jihadre Sorensen. Welcome to the Utah Esports broadcast of today's uLoL matchup between our very own University of Utah varsity squad and the University of Washington. We'll be watching as these two teams take to the rift in an epic best-of-3, hoping to claim swift victory over their opponent. On your screen now, you can see for the University of Utah, we have Swish in the top lane, Kranon in the jungle, Soul Rush keeping his grip on that middle of the map, with Adam Josh 11 supporting the player to watch, James on AD carry.
Now on the side of Washington, we have Opa in the top lane, Barcode running around in the jungle, God of Men in the mid lane, Lotus and Based Hoon in the bot lane.
It looks like we might have a little bit of a sub-action happen for Based there. It looks like they might have swapped him out for a substitute. Foom, I believe, will be the pronunciation for this new support coming in for today's match. But we'll get right into Champion Select as soon as they are ready. We'll be hopping into that lobby shortly for you guys to check out who will be victorious. Again, this is a best-of-3. We're broadcasting live from Salt Lake City from the University of Utah's esports headquarters here downtown. Again, this is University of Utah's varsity squadron. This is a uLoL matchup, best-of-3 against University of Washington, UW.
This is going to be a really exciting game. We've had the opportunity to look up both teams, see kind of their stats and the things that they do. This is going to be a very close match. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and actually with the changes coming through last week on 8.2, now taking place in Pro Play this weekend, as I'm sure plenty of people watching have been paying attention to the EU LCS, NALCS, perhaps LCK over the last few days. You'll see that as the first bans come through, Nunu, with those massive buffs for the jungle, are really something you don't want your enemy to have.
That's actually something that I wanted to bring up, even if it didn't happen. I wanted to see Nunu banned from the side of the University of Utah. It's one of Barcode's favorites. We were able to see that in his stats, and I think it's just a good ban overall, but really specifically strong right here.
Yeah, and of course the combo that we've even seen come out in the EU LCS yesterday, the Nunu Azir. Now it wasn't victorious, they fell in like a 65-minute game. Again, this was Fnatic that was able to get it through the draft, but we saw the power that that combo can have. And just a little side note here for those viewers, when we say Barcode, we're referring here to Washington Esports, their jungler, the YILILIL, repeating, because in-game it'll show up looking closer to like a Barcode, and it's just a little bit easier pronounced than Yili. Yeah, so something like that. But yeah, we are here in a Champions. Like the first 3 bans have come through. The Nunu, we talked about how strong that is. It's off the table. Bench the Kench, right, as well, right off the bat. Talk to me about that pick. Why is that such an early ban?
A lot of what has been coming out in the changes with 8.2 has been high aggression, and so Tom Kench is able to take your carry completely out of the fight. He'll avoid all the crowd control, all that initial damage, and then come right back in and deal all that damage after possibly summoner spells have been blown and all the other damage, and crowd control is expended. So Tom Kench, in addition to that, is another front line to just put a body in between your team's carry and the damage of the other team.
Yeah, one thing I have loved, especially having watched the University of Utah's varsity squad play in recent history, is the Tom Kench pick for Adam Josh in particular. He's so skilled at these disengaged / playmaking champions that will help James be able to DPS as much as basically humanly possible. We've seen him perform so well. James, of course, on AD carry. And Tom Kench almost seems to give an extra set of summoner spells to your AD carry. Being able to take something like Unsealed Spellbook and take Cleanse later on in the game as Tom Kench means you can get right to your AD carry no matter what happens and flash out with them, creating extra space to reposition them better for team fights.
So other bans that we need to look at, Alistar is another one of those really high crowd control tanky supports that have become more popular. I'm glad that he's out, and then I'm confused about the Azir ban on the University of Utah side. That's one of Soul Rush's big carries. He's played it the last couple times you and I have watched him play in their scrims and competitive matches. So why would they ban the Azir from someone who could use it so effectively?
Well, even with wanting to be able to have the Nunu banned out, that doesn't mean that Azir falls in favor necessarily. No. He's really still strong. Now, I do like that you point out it's an interesting choice for Utah to be banning out their own strong pick, but with them being on blue side and not, or excuse me, I believe they're on red side, then with them having only 2 picks to follow up, if they ban out the Nunu and they're expecting some high-level jungle pick, they want to make sure that they're not handing over either the Azir first pick and then they're forced to take whatever's left through the ban phase. Instead, they want to make sure that it's off the table, they can counter pick later on red side for that mid lane, and they don't want to play into an Azir for whatever reason. I think more of the draft will tell us why they wouldn't want to play into Azir if they have some sort of engage in mind, because I mean, if you look at it with the Zach pick as 3rd pick here for Utah, you can tell if they had an Azir, that's no longer as strong as it could be. But you and I saw just last week that there are other picks that can make Zach very, very sad.
Yes, there are a lot of those, and overall, I do think that Zach is one of the strongest junglers right now. He's got the long-range engage, he's got a lot of crowd control, he's able to pull enemy champions into your team, and that'll be really nice with the Varus, because he's got his own set of crowd control, get a couple auto attacks and burn the blight. It's really strong. Zach is a great pickup for Kraydon.
I do like the engage ability of this Zach pick, but I have massive concerns already for this draft. Utah, I'm seeing their possibility of having the damage and having the engage, but Braum is extremely potent at stopping DPS carries like Kraydon's pick here that's going to be traded over to James. That I'm sure this is on hit Varus, and a maxed stand behind me on Braum with his Unbreakable up. Those 2 spells together will mean he blocks a ton of James's damage, while on the other hand, Barcode here has been playing a ton of Shyvana in Season 8, a lot in his recent match history, and really high performances, winning solo queue game after solo queue game after solo queue game, mostly due to just that pick. It's so strong in the jungle right now.
It is strong, but I think that they picked the Zach afterward for that exactly. Zach has a decently fast clear and will have a little bit more pressure and presence, where Shyvana is mostly going to be waiting for her lanes to shove and then go get those drakes, get the extra resistances, and just be kind of a run at you, deal damage, where there's a lot more crowd control and utility on the side of Zach. Match the clear speed, but be a little bit more effective.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more early game pressure that a Shyvana can put down. Now, people would say, oh, what's she going to do? Run at you? When we have Elastic Slingshot for Zach, he's a lot better at engaging or starting things. But when you have Braum in that bottom lane, for example, in the bottom lane, you have so much gank assist that running at you when you're stunned is actually quite scary. So Shyvana, I actually really like that pick, as the draft will actually be completed here. 4 top lane bans to end it out on the ban phase. Those last picks coming through. I like Swish choosing that Maokai, creating more of a buffer between, of course, what will likely be the on-hit Varus with the Rageblade build, and then, of course, Vel'Koz. I think that was I'm not actually on board with this pick. I feel like it's not as strong as other picks that are available, but basically gifting over the Zoe too, I feel like is a massive mistake. She's so strong right now. She still has presence even when she loses lane, because one Sleepy Trouble Bubble can just win you late. Yeah, it causes a lot of trouble, indeed. And it can just end a game, especially post 45 minutes or so. You catch one member, even if it's the support, then they're going to have a lot of trouble, right?
Right. And I agree with you. I don't think Zoe should have made it through the ban phase. Utah should have banned that out. Anyone who isn't going to play it needs to ban it. There's no argument there. Get rid of the Zoe. And in terms of fighting it, why would you pick Vel'Koz? You banned away your Azir, which would be a good matchup into the Zoe, Malzahar just got nerfed, not as good anymore. Maybe Rise could have worked in there, but why the Vel'Koz? I can't understand it.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily on board, though Soul Rush has played a decent amount of Vel'Koz last season. It's just not been in his match history recently, and so I just don't see it coming through. And a little bit of a change on the graphic there. Instead of Clarity, it's going to be the Cleanse that Vel'Koz is going to be taking, and I like that choice coming in against Zoe because of the bubble we've talked about, but it is still super scary against a Malphite to be on such an immobile carry. That is really, really squishy. Vel'Koz, not one of those champions you see build any sort of health stacking AP items like Aroa or even Leandry is not exactly a standard choice. It's not a bad one, but it's not exactly a standard choice for even the first two of a core build for a Vel'Koz. So I don't imagine him living through fights if he's anywhere near the beginning of the action.
Yeah, we were talking about the engage of Zac and the disengage of Lulu and Maokai, but there's only so much you can do when Oppa and Barcode both have an ultimate that just throws them into the back line. Like, you can only stop so much of that. So with the relative immobility of Varus and Vel'Koz, it's spelling trouble for the University of Utah in the draft.
Bubbles of trouble indeed. And I really do want to take a second look here at this bottom lane matchup, the 2v2 between James, Adam, Josh, 11, and then, of course, Lotus and Base Hoon. Oh, excuse me. Yes, it's Foom, right? It's Phume who's going to be on that Brum. The 2v2 here in this bottom lane actually, I think, looks in favor of James. In terms of total MMR and the ratings of these players, there is not a player who's not peaked at least mid-diamond on either of these two teams, but there's only two players that have crested into Challenger, even into high Challenger like James, the 80 carry for University of Utah. Barcode here on the jungle is significantly higher in just solo queue rating than Kraydon. Now, we've seen Kraydon do amazing things for his team, but it remains true that if you have that kind of a jungle difference, you have to wonder, will the Shyvana pressure with like invades and mind games and early dragons be enough to set Washington up for a mid-game power push when their main members like Twitch and Zoe get their power spikes? A Morello completed on God of Men, and then Lotus here having, say, his first Zeal item completed on top of his Infinity Edge.
I agree with you. Just the speed that Shyvana can have and the engage that they have with those two ultimates plus the Sleepy Bubble. I think Braum also will add his ultimate into that Glacial Fissure. That's 3 huge knockups into the back line. That's what we're going to probably see from the University of Washington, is just trying to rush the mid. Ooh, but do we see some earlier action?
It is a 5-man invade, and there was not a ward put down in there in the brush. It's actually incredibly lucky that Swish walked right through it after pausing for a half second, because although Washington would have seen Maokai walking away, they won't have known that they weren't actually spotted out. So Zac here, Kraydon, actually in a compromised position. If he does step out, they'll know which side he's starting on. Shyvana looking to steal away red. This could actually be incredibly sneaky, but also very risky, because if Zac, I would imagine, is going to be starting on these Wraiths, he won't actually see when they start his red buff, though they're right next to it.
Unless he called Soul Rush up there to try and take the red himself. It would be really interesting if that was the case. You're going to have more damage on the side of the University of Utah, especially with Maokai coming in. It is a 2v2. Good Arcane Smash to disengage there. Kraydon has to leave that buff alone. He doesn't have the presence. The Maokai is on the other side, but no way to get in there. A lot of fighting coming out of here.
They're taking a lot of damage. This is quite delayed, and of course this is a risky, 2-use smite. And Kraydon with the nice smite timing. That was right on 390 health, so that was instantly and perfectly the exact amount of level 1 smite. So a lot of time wasted there by Barcode, despite using so much of his top laner's resources there. So, well, having Shyvana fall behind from that kind of a choice is really not conducive to what I was trying to describe in Champion Select, which would hopefully be early invade pressure from Shyvana. Unfortunately, the earliest possible of invades kind of backfires there.
And that speaks to what you and I were talking about. This University of Utah squad is in the zone. They are always communicating. Nothing ever happens without the rest of the team knowing. And they made that play. They had the heads up, and Kraydon quick on that smite key. Good save.
It's really impressive, actually, because it is about as close to a 50-50 as you can get, like those late-game Baron trades. But being able to secure that is so huge. It's a nice trade there from Soul Rush.
It was a lot of damage, and that, I guess, could be the reason you pick Vel'Koz, is to get the damage and shove your lane. But later on in the game, there's a reason he's not as picked as other mid laners. And so it's going to be interesting to watch that, because Zoe has a lot of damage as well, but it comes a little later, and it's really conditioned on the range of that paddle star. And I don't know, I think that Vel'Koz is winning right now, just in terms of what he can do spell for spell. But I'm waiting to see the Zoe start popping off in the mid and late game.
Yeah, Ignite versus Cleanse, and of course Cleanse also removes summoner spell debuffs, not just crowd control. So it can save his life from, say, an Ignite. But of course Soul Rush here, landing some nice combos. Both of these champions are relatively immobile. People will try and contest that point as post-level 6 Zoe will come through. But all in all, in her first few levels, she doesn't actually have any reposition tools unless gifted one by a minion or someone flashing near her. And so the skill shots from Soul Rush, and of course the life disintegration ray coming through at level 6 will make such a huge difference for the damage potential of taking down God of Men before he can get to the level where he can create some sleepy bubble trouble.
And now that we're looking at the bot lane, we see exactly what you were saying. Varus is ahead of the Twitch right now. He had about 9 to 10 CS the whole time. They're keeping them pushed under their turret. That's good for... It is a little bit better for Shyvana that they're pushed under their own turret, but they have the push. And now that they have them pushed all the way over there, they can do the roam. Watch for that early Drake, because that's what Shyvana wants to do.
Yeah.
Wants to get those extra resistances and get the early power spike.
Yeah, and it's so smart here for James and Adam Josh to know, if we're going to be creating pressure down here, as there is a little bit of a fight down there in the bottom lane, looks like they will just disengage, but boom, down to 200 health. Summoner spells used defensively on the side here of Utah, so bottom lane going to be down. That exhaust and heal for James and Adam Josh. But I really, really love their choice to say, look, if we're creating pressure, we're pushing into the turret, we know that we're susceptible to now that Shyvana run at you gank. And if that's the case, we need to create that vision. We need to know exactly where Shyvana is, and if she's not going to gank us, it's entirely possible that she is, as you said, going to go for those early Dragons Infernal, so valuable as the game begins to scale. So I like them taking a moment to push in the wave, walk through the river, and put a ward in the river specifically on that dragon to make sure that they had that vision.
Now I think we're going to see a little bit more aggression. Stopwatches are available to everyone. There are 4 on the University of Utah side, 3 on Washington. I think that we're going to see some ganks coming in quick, and the plays are going to be made. The stopwatch was one of the most incredibly weird changes that Riot added as an early spell or rune, and it makes for some interesting plays and ganks.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no downside to it. It costs 600 gold to take from the store, but it returns after being broken just over 200. Oh, dude, here we get cash.
And there's the ultimate onto Shyvana and the disintegration ray to disengage. God of Men does not want to stay there. good fight. Nothing really happened, though.
We do get the flash out of Shyvana. That's kind of a huge spell for her early pressure, and now she just has 0 of it. All of her camps are just barely beginning to respawn, so she's at least got something to do with her time. But honestly, the Shyvana, I'm not seeing any pressure from it. Barely up in farm over the Zac. The Zac obviously creating far more pressure and setting up for winning trades. She loses her flash, Zac holds on to his, and he's catching up in those farm numbers despite being a slower moving early game champion, and of course will take longer to clear camps the more and more items that Shyvana gets.
And I like the item choice here. He went with the poacher's knife to get some extra wards. That's good for counter jungling. That's good for vision. Let Lulu stay with Varus. Instead of roaming around the map and being the sole responsibility for vision other than the pink wards, Zac now has a way to catch vision and be in control of his jungle again.
Yeah, and I do like the choice to go with the tracker's knife, and of course, including in Zac's inventory here is a control ward of his own. They're looking to make sure that they have solid vision control around the dragon. As you can see it being contested right now, Shyvana going through, clearing out one control ward that was set there earlier by the Vel'Koz. Bottom lane now getting shoved in. This tells you that Washington is ready to start up that dragon, as I'm sure they just did. Teleport comes through, Swish is on his way, but it gets canceled out by Malphite ultimate. Zac's going to engage at the dragon. We'll see how this fight turns out.
It is another smite fight. 41 hit points. Kraydon picks up the Drake. He is now in the passive form. There's a life form disintegration ray. The first stopwatch comes out. First blood for Barcode.
Yeah, Shyvana getting the first blood, but neither one of the junglers even had their smite available. So Kraydon tanky enough to just jump in, last for a while, holds on to his stopwatch because he knows there's no way out after, but he gets the dragon. Stealing it from a Shyvana is a big deal. And of course, with a team that includes a massive damage champion like Soul Rush here on Vel'Koz, denying that sort of infernal dragon for the scaling that hopes to come out here from Washington is a massive deal.
Oh, it's going to be huge, not only for the denial factor, but a lot of Varus' damage comes from igniting the Blight from his Blighted Quiver, which is a scale. It's an AP scale, but it looks like another fight here. The ultimates from Lulu and Braum are both out. Adam Josh is really low. He pops the stopwatch. Looks like a redemption coming in. James stealing a lot of damage. He is nearly untouched. Flashes forward, gets the first kill. Lotus is going to be next. Kraydon doesn't even need to be there. James only needs his one spell. Hail of arrows, and he picks up the kill. Zac is now in onto Zoe, and he flashes forward. God of Men is not long for this world. One more spell. Kraydon is close. He gets the ward in and gets the kill. 3-1 now for the University of Utah.
Man, so much work done by this Zac as well. He gets tired enough to take a nap after the kill on Zoe. Swish gonna use his ult to just disengage. But yes, a beautiful fight down there. They get a nice catch onto Adam Josh, but Adam Josh holding onto his flash, making sure to use his ult to keep James alive for that damage. And James ultimately able to get a belated double kill, eventually creating a lot of pressure for his team. He's now up almost... yeah, he's up 30+ CS, taking first turret, giving solo gold over to James. He's going to be able to complete that, his core items so soon here. Oh, this last tower hit, not quite enough.
Beautiful
be
juggling.
A good dive.
Great work there. Oppa tanking the turret the entire time. Shyvana dealing all the damage, especially with that burnout going. Well done, well dived. Low mana and a couple of hits already down onto Swish. Good dive, good placement too, because they had just lost everything on the bottom. They knew that Kraydon was still down there, and they were free to do that dive. Yeah,
really smart choice there. Glad that they had enough damage. And it's actually been interesting, the choice here to be stacking magic resist for Malphite. You know that his kit gives him bonus damage from armor that he builds, and of course he will take some physical damage, especially when diving. Turrets like that, but I actually like the... oh my goodness. You look away for half a second and that's what a Zoe can do to you. I'm sure it was a trouble bubble landing into some paddle star damage there, increased of course by that crowd control spell. But once again, about this Malphite, I like the choice for him to have the Spectre's Cowl, the Merc Treads, an additional no Magic Mantle, stacking up the magic resist, because even though James, as an AD carry, a marksman, if you will, is meant to be putting out damage per second, a lot of it, as you mentioned, the Blight, and of course the Rage Blade, the W giving him the Blight on hit damage, that's going to be a lot of magic damage that Malphite's going to have to be dealing with on the front line for his team.
And with the likes of Zoe and Twitch and Shyvana even, there's so much damage, I don't think he really needs all the bonus damage from the armor he would be stacking. It would just be so ineffective in regards to later game. Varus is going to be the only one with a significant source of physical damage other than the turrets. So I agree with you. I think it's a good choice to go with more magic resistance and tenacity as opposed to trying to gain more damage with the armor.
Yeah, it seems to me that the only pitfall to that choice is simply their team's ability to dive. I mean, if you look at their team composition, they're relying on the Malphite engage or a Sleepy Bubble landing. But if they don't get their skill shot to land, then it's going to be Malphite's engage that matters. And this high wave clear catch potential team of University of Utah here, if they just sit underneath their turrets until they take the fights they want to, where's the answer? If there's no armor on the Malphite, I don't see it coming through.
Right. I do believe that he'll need to build at least one high armor item, probably going to be the Frozen Heart. I think that would be a good one. It gives you the most armor, gives him a little bit more mana to spam his spells, and it will also slow down Varus's attack speed, you know, kind of canceling out his passive.
We're getting some catches in the jungle. Shyvana's going to ult right onto the Vel'Koz, so seeing him enough for Zoe to deal her damage. That's going to be Soul Rush getting caught once again with his flash going down. TP comes through.
No further fighting here. He keeps going in. There's the ultimate from Opa, and Adam Josh gets the next kill. Zach launches a couple people, bounces them out. James is now in trouble. He pops the Summoner heal, deals a tiny bit of damage, but I don't think he's going to get anything from it. Unfortunate turn of events there for the University of Utah. Good for Washington, but another Sleepy Trouble Bubble. He jumps in, and there's a Battle Star. A great stopwatch is not going to save him. And now it's 7-3. A huge turnaround there.
My goodness, that damage coming through from the Paddle Star, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, procking that up to a 900 damage hit on that Paddle Star, almost instantly deleting James. He had used heal slightly before that exact source of damage, but he puts his stopwatch down to try and avoid getting hit by it, but it hits him before he can. Spamming that active, I'm sure, but not enough. Second Infernal's available, and all of those summoners used to start that fight from the side of Washington, from their top laner at least, is going to be not available. You can see Opa's pushing up top lane. They actually have 5 members here for Utah down here. I want to see them just force this before they lose the tower, before Malphite could go. Nice engage.
Here's the engage. The ultimates are down. God of Men is really low. The sapling is there. It's probably going to pick up the kill. Swish gets the first one and gets ulted by Adam Josh. They have full priority on this Drake. Great fight.
Thank goodness, you know. I was just saying I really just want him to force it. It's a 5v4 situation. Oh, Shyvana awkwardly getting caught. Swish is actually kind of strong at this point. Smite comes through.
Smite goes through, and red team does pick up the Drake, and Shyvana has to... she doesn't ult or flash, just gets away. Swish, not a lot of damage, but enduring what Shyvana could put out makes it not worth her fighting him back.
Yeah, great choice by Swish to zone out the Shyvana. Doesn't want her to have the possibility of stealing that, kind of like Zach did on the first one. And so nice choice there. But looking across here on the scoreboard, 2 Infernals now. They used a lot of summoner spells, a couple of flashes to secure that. But as we're approaching the mid-game, we're getting closer and closer to Baron becoming available for both of these teams. There's only 2,000 gold that separates two teams. It's not so much, actually. And honestly, most of it is just on this Shyvana, who seemed rather quiet, to be honest.
Rather quiet, but effective. 3 kills, 3 assists, no deaths, up in the CS against Zach. And Shyvana's been at every one of those fights. Been there ready, starting it, and is really making the pick look more and more attractive to me. I didn't think that it was going to be as fun to watch the Shyvana, but it actually is. It's a lot of fun to see her running around the map and picking fights and things like that. We saw her ult once. I wonder how impactful that's going to be once we get into these other fights.
So you get a catch here onto Foom.
And then Foom does go down. There's the ultimate from Barcode. Adam Josh is trying to give the support. He ults onto James. There's the disintegration ray. Let's Bounce does not land onto Barcode. The slow does hit Ludos. And there's the jump in from Kraydon. He flashes away. The ult from Maokai is there. Barcode is stuck. He does have the stopwatch. Now Lotus is underneath the turret. He gets the kill on James from turret aggro. Wow. Lotus wants to go in. He's got 2 more kills in his sights. There's the slingshot.
Oh my goodness.
The outplay from jungle and support from the U.
Nice work by Kraydon there. I do think it's a little bit of a misplay by Kraydon there to use his stopwatch to lose the tower aggro, though it would have taken his life, in quotations. He had his passive available. Kraydon, you can't let your AD carry die there for free just because you don't want to lose your passive. If it's a 3v1 situation there on the Twitch, let the Twitch kill your passive with the tower aggro coming through, and then hopefully your your Varus has the extra 1 or 2 seconds there without the turret banging on him for him to be able to win that trade. I absolutely believe with how close that was that James takes that 1v1 and wins it without taking those 2 tower shots. So a little bit of a misplay there, miscommunication by Kraydon and James, but ultimately somewhat in their favor, right? It was a much greater kill deficit before that, and of course the 2,000 gold lead still there, but we're seeing how these fights can go with God of Men getting caught in the beginning. If Kraydon's ability to engage and land the elastic sling shots can get closer and closer to what they want, then you know that this will be good news. As the ultimate lands,
there's the ultimate onto Foom. He is so low, he jumps away. Rift Herald wants to join the fight now. There's the ultimate from Swish and the jump in from Kraydon. Kraydon throws in the elastic slings, and Foom is next to go. That means it's a free Rift Herald.
a free Rift Herald, and they tip him for it too. 2 kills, the bottom lane just falls. I want to see a replay of Swish's TP there. He made such a good flank play saying, yes, we got the catch, and now they're in no position to fight because Foom is very, very low, already used his ultimate long ago, and so we may be able to get a replay for you in just a moment. But yes, that's going to be the Rift Herald coming through for Utah. They're up 2 Infernals. They've now gotten a little bit closer to closing that gold gap, but to be honest, 1,000 gold at this point in the game isn't actually that much.
No, it's not at all, especially with how many outer turrets are still available for the University of Utah to take. They have the top and mid, and you know, that's 500 gold for each, plus local and everything like that. So with that Rift Herald, both those turrets are low. They're ready, they're prime for that activation.
Yeah, now we're sieging onto mid. God of Men with a free cleanse available just in case Swish wants to jump right on him with that root. So the fun thing about him there, nice sleepy trouble bubbles. That's gonna be a short paddle star. He didn't actually want to go for that when he saw Varus showing up. Red buff on James just times out, and he's looking to play aggressive in the front line here, dodging out. Remember, those chains of corruption are actually so strong. We've seen it start out the fights here a couple of times with a lot of damage, and the crowd control that's stackable as a TP comes through. Malphite's starting out a fight on the top side here.
It will not be enough. He jumps in, doesn't hit anybody with that unstoppable force. He's taking a lot of damage. Unstoppable on Zach. He is into the passive form. Upa goes down first. Zach is safe. James flashes in. He gets the kill onto Shyvana. That's a quadra kill for James!
James with the aggressive flash play. I love it coming through. He knew that from sieging the turret, he already had his Rage Blade stacked up. 6 stacks, the attack speed, the on-hit damage, stacking up so much that he's able to just melt anybody he's touching. And they're going to go for a 22-minute Baron.
And that's the right call. They still have the Rift Herald. They get the They're going to get the Baron, shove a lane, get all those turrets. We can see their team fight prowess. They were engaged upon and came out ahead with the quadra kill on their AD carry. That suddenly that huge swing, that 1,000 deficit, is a 3,000 bonus for them.
Man, what a great fight for University of Utah. I'm gotta say, the MVP of that fight, you might want to say, is Quadra-Kill James. I love the aggressive flash, but I'm giving the most valuable player of that fight to Opa over here. With the nice teleport, miss everyone, unstoppable force. Feels bad to say it, because it feels kind of like Flame, but that's a key engagement tool here, and you can't afford to miss it, let alone miss everyone. You have to hit the key targets. You have to hit Soul Rush. He only has a stopwatch available. As soon as he uses that, there's not going to be an hourglass for at least a while. You got to delete that guy so he can't put out the pain. And James here, being able to flash aggressively, you know something went terribly wrong.
Terribly wrong in more than just that. There are 3 frontliners that all died in that engagement.
Yeah.
First. They were the first people to go down. Twitch was one of the last, and Zoe made it out. Just bad positioning, I want to say. Just like you were saying, you gotta land that. Oh, it's a lot of people say that Malphite is a lot easier to play than I think he is. You have one job, and that's land your ult.
I mean, you have to get right onto the backline, especially with James here on Varus playing the on-hit attack speed build, being able to make sure that your ground slam that reduces attack speed significantly lands onto James is extremely important. Even more so important that you start fights away from minion waves and the like, because if James can stack up his Rage Blade, this is similar to what a Kog'Maw can do. If he stacks up a Rage Blade before the fight begins and he has that passive, the debuff available, you know that there's big trouble as there's an engage.
The engage from the Sleepy Trouble bubble. There's the stopwatch pulled out, and Shyvana's in the middle of everything. James gets another kill. That's a double kill for Soul Rush as well, and they're just going to run down this turret.
Yeah, they got the kind of engage I was just describing, where they force Soul Rush to cleanse Hourglass, or Stopwatch, excuse me. They force him to use that defensive just to survive a little bit longer, ultimately do take Soul Rush down, but in that time, the huge backline here of James able to DPS down the front line. And what did you say about last fight? The 1, 2, 3 tank members of Washington's front line fall in quick succession to now a 10-2, excuse me, Varus, who's got half of a Flame Horizon over the Twitch now. Now, Twitch, a beautiful pick in this meta, but right now he just doesn't have anywhere near the damage that James is putting out in these fights.
Now, what I wanted to see is they took away the Alistar. That's fine. But if you're going to pick Twitch, you got to win the lane. Braum is not an oppressor. He doesn't push. So I would have liked to see more like the brand. You and I talked about that being a really strong pushing support. That or Shen or something else that could have pushed and got the Twitch the extra gold and the positioning that he really needs to take over the fights, which he hasn't been able to do at all.
No, and off the screen we did see Shyvana sneakily getting a Mountain Dragon, so that's going to be their first. But ultimately, this game is turning out to be a story of attack speed on hit Varus just popping off, similar to those type of solo queue matches you experience where you have just like a Kog'Maw in the backline that you just can't get to for whatever reason, always dealing damage and you can't seem to stop him. James, even flashing forward aggressively, is able to do just that. Put out the pain, be aggressive, win these fights for his team with just so much damage. There's still not armor on this Malphite. He's getting melted by James as soon as he ults in. Where is the Randuins? Where's a Cold Steel passive to slow down James here on this backline? Why aren't they looking to create picks with vision in their own jungle or in rotations? This siege is looking pretty good for University of Utah.
And that's exactly what they wanted to do the whole time. Sleepy Bubble on him, it won't mean much because they're just too far behind. 7,000 gold, they're lacking the 2 Infernal Drakes. They just don't have the damage to break through the Lulu shield and all of the disengage of Maokai and Zac. They can't go forward.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate turn of events. Nice ult. Here's going to be those brambles coming through Swish. Nice zoning capability there. They don't even take a half fight here trying to keep them off the turret. That's going to be an inhibitor going down. Again, this is the second of the game. There's not a Baron right now that has the ability for them to push further into the base. You can see top lane. That side wave was set up well by Opa or whomever was in that top lane setting up that wave for Washington. That's going to force Utah to back off after taking another victory inside the base of Washington. And you can see a minute and a half for these neutral objectives to respawn. These are going to be our next big fights where we're going to have to see James getting caught somehow, Soul Rush getting caught somehow, so that the damage threats are gone.
So to answer my own question, why do you pick Vel'Koz? Because you trust in Swish and Kraydon. That it's what it's come down to. Those two just blocking everything else. Adam Josh getting the shields and the ultimates out to give extra hit points and durability. That's all it can be. And so that trust that Soul Rush had makes this pick very effective, dealing tons of damage, doing everything that they need to be done. Looking really good.
Yeah, and again, just 20 seconds before that dragon spawns, but Shyvana's on the other side of the map. We've got a nice split, kind of, here from Opa, and you can see blue team has a lot of wards up in the river that are kind of far away if they're looking to use those as like a teleport location for this fight. But you can see they're already on that inhibitor turret. That's a lot of damage coming through. James has stacked up his Rage Blade, and the Ardent Sensor, of course, with a Whimsy as well. You can see James he's stacking up to close to max attack speed. I'd be surprised, extremely surprised, if he isn't hitting you can see it there on your screen, 2.5 attack speed. He's sitting at 2.0 on his own without the buffs from Lulu. Now at 2.5 when he hits the turret, the Whimsy and the Ardent Sense are doing so much work. You know he's going to have those 6 stacks. That's going to be the 3rd inhibitor falling. And what does that tell you with the engage?
It means that they're going to lose another fight. Zac jumps in. There's the ultimate from Vel'Koz. Everyone is dead. The ult from Lulu buffing up Swish. He is still alive. God of Man jumps in, gets hit with the Blade of the Ruin King. And there's James again, just throwing arrows at these turrets. It's already down to about half.
Yeah, and James's positioning is just stellar. He's playing in such a good spot that Adam Josh is able to use the Miracle Grow on Swish instead. You know, that rampant growth, keeping the tree alive. Now back up to healthy again, and you can see Opa getting caught. Nice knockback.
And here's the rest of the fight. Zoe is dead. Opa is polymorphed. He is going to go down. Zac is getting the engage there. Opa is left. And that's a godlike streak, and that's an ace for the University of Utah. That's the end of the game.
Yeah, the second inhibitor, the second Nexus turret going to fall as the inhibitor respawns 30 minutes into the match. What was a 2,000 gold lead deficit ends as an almost 11,000 gold lead. What an amazing performance here from the University of Utah. I mean, it looked a little hairy there in the beginning. They had the nice tricky invade where Shyvana started to try that level 1 cheese. Didn't work out, you know. Kraydon's smite at level 1, I think, set him up for success to not be susceptible to those early problems that Zac can run into versus the Shyvana, who can bully him in the jungle. So really nicely played by Kraydon there. And honestly, I'm not on board with Soul Rush's pick of Vel'Koz. I feel like most fights he had to just be like, oh, let me back up for a second. I'm scared where I'm at. I have to use some sort of summoner. But I would love to see the damage charts ultimately.
Yeah,
I'll look at those in the break. But Soul Rush, I don't like the pick. I would rather see something. Why'd they ban their own Azir? I mean, if he had Azir, can you imagine, right? Because if Varus is hitting 6 stacks, 2.5 of his own attack speed for his build, then use the Whimsy. Use the Ardent Sensor on an Azir, and boom, your damage potential goes in through the roof. But what a wonderful match, honestly. That was a pleasure to watch. Again, quadra kill from James, probably the MVP of the match as he ends with a ton of kills. I'm sure he was legendary at the end there. And again, We'll be right back with more League of Legends action. We're going to take a quick break before we get into Game 2. But again, after the break, this will be Washington, University of Washington, taking on University of Utah's varsity squadron for League of Legends. Best of 3, Game 2 coming your way. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to our weekend match between the University of Utah and the University of Washington. Before the break, University of Utah took a convincing win, I think, in a victory over Washington, this best of 3, setting them up for match point if they can win this match.
And you know what? We already talked about it. I don't want to talk. I want to watch this next game. I want to see what else happens. So let's jump right into our champion select. See those picks and bans and see what comes out next and get this game underway.
Yeah, in that last game, we saw a beautiful pick of the on-hit Varus for James. Now, the lane was a little bit iffy because they were able to push in, but they didn't have the pressure necessary to take first turret instantly and make sure that the Twitch was a non-factor in the early game. There were some team fights that didn't exactly go too well. And, of course, the invade early for Shyvana on Washington's side just didn't work out at level 1. Ultimately, I think we talked about how the pick for Soul Rush on the Vel'Koz was meh. It wasn't bad. No. It worked out, but it just felt like it was getting carried by James and not creating its own pressure. Zoe definitely creating pressure.
Yeah. Started all of the engages. Any fight that came from Washington was started either by a trouble bubble or the unstoppable force from Malphite. One of those two things, whether it hit or not, it started a fight.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. We need to see some changes there. I think a better mid lane pick. Don't ban your own Azir.
Yeah, I
can't get over that.
Yeah, banning their own Azir on for Utah. Soul Rush has played that champion time and again. Amazing performances. I mean, you've seen Caps in the EULCS playing that champion to nigh perfection. And we've seen, honestly, Soul Rush do performances that are token of that kind of viewer experience. So I would love to be able to watch that and cast more of that. But they banned it out for themselves and ended up picking the Vel'Koz, which doesn't really have... I mean, he had some good trades against Zoe in lane, but when it came to the mid game, when it came to the possibility of roaming, you're like, roam, what?
Yeah.
I'm a floating eye. I can't really leave.
I think that this just goes to prove that there's no such thing as an unfavorable matchup. That's all it is.
For the Zoe? Zoe is just brutal.
It's brutal. You're right. But they're not afraid. I think that's what it comes down to. When I was doing my research earlier today, I made a list of, between the two laners, popular picks, what bans should result because of it, and what I would like to see. The first thing on that list was ban Zoe.
Yeah!
The first thing was ban Zoe, and then for Washington, ban Azir. Not Utah ban Azir. Utah play Azir. That I really thought he would be in the last game and be a lot more influential, especially with how strong he is just in the state of the game right now, in the meta. No reason to ban it yourself.
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, I don't understand the Azir ban. I mean, looking at God of Men's match history, he doesn't even play Azir.
No.
He hasn't. In this season, Season 8, in Season 7, he didn't play it. He hasn't played it any time recently. It's just not in his champion pool. Why ban it? Force the other team to ban it. And now that Utah's on blue side, they have the possibility of first picking it. I swear, if they ban Azir, I'm going to start believing that they're just memeing on them. So it's just like, you can't, there's no reason to ban one of your best possible champions and, like, step on your own toes, really. You're, like, tripping yourself over and saying, I'll beat you while I'm on the floor or something. It's a little BM, if you ask me.
Speaking of bans, good or bad, I like the Nunu and the Tahm Kench bans.
Yeah.
They're exact mirrors of what we saw last time. Get the Nunu out of there, get the Tahm Kench out of there. Both very powerful picks for their respective, I think their respect bans, honestly, aside from the fact that they're both strong champions, the players, Barcode and Adam Josh, both play these champions that got banned.
Yeah. And especially the Tahm Kench ban, we've talked about that in the past, about how Adam Josh 11 here on support, supporting probably one of the highest rated players in any of the university series out there, James, 600 plus LP challenger consistently, right? And so for him to have the support of Adam Josh on a champion like Tahm Kench that can give him, as I mentioned last time, basically giving him an extra set of summoner spells is just so strong, and you've got to be kidding me.
I'm
the
not.
Azir ban.
They must be kidding you, but I'm not. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, I'm sinking in my chair over here. I don't understand the Azir ban at all.
Neither do I. Instead of dwelling on it more, I want to talk about the Gragas ban. Gragas has been resurging since 8.2 came out. We've seen him in the EU and NALCS quite frequently. A lot of that to do with his fast clear, the amount of crowd control he has. He's durable. He's everything that Zac is, just with a little less range.
Yeah, and I like that choice. I like the choice here to ban the Gragas, not just because he's become a little bit closer to that flavor of the month in competitive, in solo queue, but it's actually some pretty good scouting here from Barcode, the highest rated player of University of Washington, their jungler. He played Gragas far above and beyond more games played last season on Gragas than any other champion, and he still plays it into Season 8, despite it not being one of those stronger picks based on the meta. So banning out that high comfort pick is a really good choice. Nunu, of course, Barcode has played that. It's really strong right now. I think the Azir thing still, what does it spell out? Nag? It's nagging at me.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
just like, it's driving me insane that you would ban out an S-tier champion that only your mid laner plays when you have blue side, though if I'm checking here, it actually will be flipped once again. Excuse me. Utah's going to be on red side once again, so they didn't have the first pick, but still, if you know that the enemy mid laner doesn't play Azir, why are you banning it away when you can use a different ban? You could ban out anything else, really, but I like the first pick, Lulu, at least.
Yeah, it takes it away from Adam Josh. Number one, take it away from Adam Josh. I don't think that Lulu is ban-worthy, but you don't want to let him get it again. So the first pick, and especially putting it with Vayne, Vayne is strong. Vayne is very strong right now with I think it's lethal press the attack.
Yeah.
The 3-hit, which gives you bonus damage. You're already getting bonus damage on 3-hit with Vayne. Percent max health true damage is then amplified. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of build Lotus here tries to go for on the Vayne, because it's essentially going to be a toss-up between crit Vayne or on-hit Vayne. I think, like we saw last game with on-hit Varus, the on-hit and DPS output of the double shots that can come through from Rageblade, excuse me, I'm tripping over my words, but that kind of a Vayne build can actually be super tank shredding, and so for the early showing of a Zac, I like the choice for the Vayne. You're going to melt them as long as the Zac doesn't actually land right on top of you, which Lulu can do a little bit to help. Lulu can help reposition the Vayne with move speed. Nice hover here from the Janna as it does get locked in. I like the Janna pick for two reasons. One, you're still going to have the Ardent Sensor for the on-hit, likely on-hit, right, the Varus. And, of course, you can stop the aggression of Shyvana. Now, almost a year ago, the change came through where you can't actually interrupt Shyvana's Dragon's Descent, but you can stop her from running at you without that spell. So
another thing on the Janna, I was watching the dive the other night. Jat and Azael both picked Janna as the top tier support pick right now. With all the changes that have happened with the new patch and everything like that, the way the meta's going, Janna's the number one pick. The most annoying person to fight is Janna, according to two very respectable sources right there from the NALCS.
Yeah, and it's the Janna's ability to keep your backline safe, because right now this meta is almost, what are we seeing in the pro play? Everywhere from Korea to EULCS to NALCS, you're seeing games go to 50 minutes. You're seeing them go to 60 minutes. You're seeing Gathering Storm being taken on a number of carries because they see that these games are getting stalled out. And late game Janna giving hundreds and hundreds of health in shields every single fight, the knockback and heal field from her ultimate. That kind of stuff just is so strong in making sure that your AD carry can do precisely what they would love to do. That being putting out the DPS against any and all enemy champions. And you can see Ornn, Shyvana, if they try and get onto this Varus, they're not going to have a happy time with the Janna being there.
No, and so I want to talk about the last bans. We were told that, first of all, we have Shen and Gangplank banned over here. I don't know that I quite agree with them, but then we also have Vladimir and Malzahar. Vladimir, I agree, is a good ban, but Malzahar just got nerfed. I don't know that was worth doing.
We're still seeing some of the Malzahar in competitive play simply because Unsealed Spellbook and his ultimate hat, those are still like really strong for 5v5 because you're going to have the Nether Grasp available to basically catch someone out for free or force them to spend 1,300 gold on a Quicksilver stash.
Right.
If they don't, they're in big trouble. So it's an okay pick. It's obviously not going to have the same kind of pressure, the same kind of potential to carry the win lane, win game type scenario as someone like a Zoe or etc. Which Zoe made it through the ban phase. Just to give you an update, for blue side, the bans that came through, or rather your left side here, red side, but for University of Utah, it was additionally to what you see, the Nunu, the Azir, the Gragas, they also banned out the Vladimir and the Malzahar we were just talking about. On the other side, you see the Tahm Kench, the Alistar, Shen, Gangplank. The last one you don't see is Aurelion Sol, which, interestingly enough, Aurelion Sol being banned out by Washington is curious. There's a lot of... Aurelion Sol is the #1 highest pick for Soul Rush above and beyond all other champions, season upon season, pretty much since that champion's release.
Right, and I think that was a good ban.
Absolutely.
But what I don't understand is why they picked Orianna instead of picking Zoe. Is that a bad matchup into the Anivia? Because University of Utah's back on the blue side now, so they saw the Anivia. So you pick Orianna into that when Zoe made it through? Was it just not impactful enough? Did they see that they have the counters?
You know, the only thing I can think of is that they're looking for like a ball combo. They know that you can't interrupt Dragon's Descent. They know that Ornn's going to get into the mix there. And if you can toss the ball from Orianna onto one of those front lines, and you can pull in, say, Anivia or move Janna into a really compromised position, now they don't have those defensive repositioning, zone control type abilities. Anivia's Wall, Anivia's Storm, and Janna's entire kit, really, are going to be the main tools for University of Utah to reposition and control the way these fights play out, especially if Zach's the one that starts them off, or Maokai, and they're the ones who say, we want this fight and we want it now.
I think that's why they picked him again.
Yeah.
Maokai and Zach are great initiators. They're great disengaged. They're great everything. A good front line. You've got a whole lot of utility. Zach's passive gives him a whole extra death.
If he uses it.
You know,
I'm still upset about that play. Come on, I've seen these guys play so cleanly, and you guys will have to back up and watch the VOD when it comes out, but just a poor play by Kraydon to basically kill his AD carry.
ADC in a 1v1 when the turret had 2 hits left. Yeah.
So hopefully we see a little bit of that fix come through where Kraydon and James will have a little bit better communication. But ultimately, to that point, the communication between jungle and bottom lane, it doesn't even need to be there early, apparently, for University of Utah because they almost seem to never lose the 2v2. James is just so strong.
And it's so weird. Like they shouldn't win some of the lanes they win. It's bizarre. And one time we saw another best of 3. We watched one team have the Kog'Maw and get shoved under turret, and then the next game James picked it and shoved them back under turret.
Oh,
and
man.
You shouldn't be able to do that.
It's almost as much BM as banning one's own Azir. I mean, being able to say, you know what, I like that pick. I'm gonna take it. But instead of feeding, I'm going to go legendary. How do you like that? You know, like, James really being able to put out great performances. So instead of the Lulu, he's going to have Jana supporting his Varus this game round. Again, this is University of Utah, their varsity squadron in a uLoL matchup taking on University of Washington, UW. And this is a best of 3. We already had game 1. And it is the Varus that popped off. He did go legendary. He was putting out a ton of pain, a ton of damage, most damage dealt to champions in the entire game, ultimately creating the win. So they're up 1-0. This could be match point if this game goes in favor of University of Utah, who have elected to take red side once again.
I like it, though. Picking the red side gives you that last counter pick. So maybe it was picking the Orianna as the safe pick.
Fair.
And then the counter pick was the Anivia into it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jadre. I like the idea of blind picking an Orianna in most situations. He's not a terrible blind pick almost ever, right?
No.
There's very few matchups that will actually punish an Orianna pick, and she'll always scale.
Are those minion dematerializers?
There are 4 stopwatches in the inventory of all but, of course, the top lane Swish here.
Yeah.
And that's a minion dematerializer in his pocket, but also in Orianna's inventory.
Now, that tells me those lanes want to shove. Orianna wants to get the shove in, kill a couple extra minions, and push it under the turret for the better roam. And probably if she took the unsealed spellbook, then you can teleport right back into lane or teleport somewhere else, pick up a cleanse because she only has the barrier right now.
Oh my goodness, and bottom lane actually gets
the flash forward.
Oh my goodness, and they did switch back to their
James is still alive.
start. James is going to fall to the last auto attack here. Lotus here is really healthy, chasing down Adam Josh. A couple more auto attacks, probably
not
about
worth
3.
it.
But a 1-for-1 trade, giving James first blood, actually is a poor choice. Ultimately, here for University of Utah, he loses both his summoners. James loses both his flash and heal, while Lotus over here still has his flash available. She takes a kill, but stays in lane. She's going to have a massive experience advantage, and that's going to put her in a position to push and keep James under turret for a good portion of this early game.
I think that explains the call. His immediate purchase is a call. He's going to get the bonus damage, he's going to get a tiny bit of extra lifesteal, and it's going to cash out later, kind of compensate for those minions that he wasn't able to get. But I agree with you, way too much to try and get that. I think if they had disengaged instead of flashing forward for that last auto attack, oh, jeez, that was gross.
You do not want to tumble as Vayne and not get your auto attack off, let alone tumble forward when your enemies are in a position to immediately return some damage. So it's a nice Zephyr hit by Adam Josh. He's, of course, got Airy to back that up. It's going to be a lot of damage. Nice Glitter Lance dodge there by James.
And now we are seeing Zach is here, that he's too far. Hyun is going down. There's another kill. Kraydon getting the second one for the University of Utah. He wants to get an auto attack and slow her down with a red buff. But a good disengage from Lotus.
Man, that's a lot of damage. You saw the nice elastic slingshot hit. No flash available. I like the call. Instantly coming down to that bottom lane as soon as they're barely pushed up. The wave had been stacking because you didn't have University of Utah's bot lane there to keep it stationary. And so as they get pushed in, the call comes through. Kraydon, come on down, get a free kill. And he does just that. Really well played by Kraydon.
Beautiful communication, that's what I want to say. They were talking about it, and it just, that's the level of play we expect from Kraydon. Just like last game, he was always in the right spot, he always got the good plays, and that's why you pick the Zach. He is so good at getting those long-range ganks without being spotted. There was no vision whatsoever. I think he used the blast. He did use the blast cone to get into that brush right there at the edge of the river, but even then, you had just shoved the lane. How did you not get a ward in there?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a misplay, making sure that you need to have that vision in the river. If you know your flashes are down, or at least Based's flash is down on Lulu, you got to be careful. And so she has purchased an additional control word. They have their own tri-brush worded out. They're going to stay a little bit safer, at least until they have those summoners. And a call comes through with Boots 1 for Vayne. She's basically all but given up her original lead.
Hear us.
And that seems so odd. Why you had to go back because of the gank and everything, but instead of picking up the call and Boots, why not work toward, even if you're not doing the on hit, you still need your zeal item. You're gonna need it. So why not pick up the dagger, be able to stack those silver bolts a little bit faster, and the like of that. I agree with you. I don't know that that was the right buy.
Yeah, or if you have 1,100 gold, just go for the pickaxe, honestly.
Yeah.
If you go for the pickaxe, then you're going to have enough damage there that's going to, I mean, then that allows you to either build towards Infinity Edge or the Rage Blade, one or the other, depending on how, whichever direction you want your build to take, but it's going to be the first Infernal 5 minutes in. Going over to Washington, this is what they wanted last game, but they didn't get.
That's what I was going to say, was now Shyvana's at the point where she's getting those extra resistances. That's why Shyvana wants the Drakes. Every Drake her team takes gives her, I believe it's 5 extra magic resistance and armor, and so you want to rush those down early. And like you said, last game, they started the first one, but they got engaged on and stopped. It looks like Kraydon is here again, but a good disengage there stops any other kind of fights.
Yeah, it's almost unfortunate when you get a good trade-off in a 2v2 when your jungler's there, because if you get the good trade-off, the enemy team's not going to take the fight. You almost have to mistakenly, but on purpose, take a bad fight, but not so bad that they know the jungler's there, but just bad enough to bait them into committing to the fight. But that didn't happen, so you're going to see Kraydon back off. He's not going to take that gank. But this is what we wanted to see from Shyvana last game, right?
Right.
We wanted to see her getting that early dragon, not having it get stolen away by a Zac just walking into the
Without
pit.
a smite?
Yeah, neither of them had smite last game for that one. But you do want to see this Shyvana getting a massive CS advantage in the jungle with getting the early dragons and being able to just farm up the entire jungle. I like that she's prioritizing the scuttle and deep vision into the jungle. She's trying to track this Zac so that he can't get any more of those successful ganks off.
And she also had a much less aggressive way of going about that than last game. Level 1 tried to invade on the red buff, ended up losing it to the smite. This time, stayed in her own jungle and gave a little bit more respect, I think, to the combo of Zac and Maokai.
Yeah.
And it's working out so far.
It's gonna be up to this Shyvana, right? As the highest rated player, Barcode here, highest rated player for University of Washington, having his comfort pick for the second game in a row. It didn't go his way last time, but he's feeling confident enough to still continue with that same pick, try and get as much more farm as he can over the Zac so that he can increase his own power to bully the Zac with vision, with 1v1. Soul Rush getting caught, just enough mana to get a stun down. The ult comes through.
Oh, and the jump in from Barcode. Kraydon gets him with the wow, I forget the name of that. And then he bounces out. God of Men is still alive. Kraydon is really low. He's got to run. His bot lane is on the way to give support, but they disengage. Shyvana's still there. He's got to be careful.
Yeah, this was Soul Rush walking over towards the blue, wanting to get that donated over to him by Kraydon, but it wasn't started yet. Kraydon was just on his way, and Soul Rush was just hurting for the mana, in a bad little position there. I'm sure he was not prepared to take a fight like that. I mean, he just tries to use the stun, flashes out after getting caught in the shockwave, and Kraydon, yeah, he tries to salvage a bad situation by using Elastic Swing Shot, getting over the wall, but it's not going to be enough when you're just waiting for Soul Rush to show back up alive with, yes, a ton of health regained from the passive, which he actually didn't even make it through,
No.
but he could have had a lot of health, he could have been okay. but he still wouldn't have had any mana to take that fight. Just stay. You lose your flash now from both your mid and your jungle. You lose the blue. You lose a life, and it's just a poor choice. Honestly, really well played by Washington here.
Right.
They knew the buff was coming up. Orianna rotates over, looking to find Soul Rush. I'm sure she knew that Anivia was out of mana. And of course, bottom lane that entire time, you'd seen Lotus here and Base pushing up, right? They're trying to say, look, we know Shyvana's close. We can push up. You want to take a long lane fight? Shyvana's right here. She'll come mess you up. So we're going to push in so that we can be the first to rotate towards this invade that we know our team is wanting to do.
Good plays from Washington. They're ahead in the jungle. They're ahead in the mid lane. You know, that's where they need their focus. Orianna's going to be a secondary shield, and that's one of the reasons you pick Orianna. She's such a well-rounded champion. She's got the crowd control in her ult and the slow from her W. She's got the shield. She's got the damage. All of it. It's all there.
I'm on you, Observer 1.
And she's just so well-rounded, and getting her ahead is going to be better than trying to focus this bot lane, because Vayne is going to deal damage.
Yeah.
You can't stop it. She's going to deal the damage, so I like that the focus was there. Like you said, understanding the timing for that blue buff. But here comes another great gank, the knockup from the Call of the Forge God, an instant kill. Maokai's down.
Yeah, he is down. He only had health there. He just barely picks up the Negatron Cloak, but that's still not going to be enough to deal with that kind of damage potential. Shyvana's already completed her jungle item on top of her Mercury Tread. She still has a stopwatch to dive a turret along with anyone, and so for her to make the choice to head back up there is really, really swell for her team. I like that she goes immediately to the closest neutral objective. She does it on top of a ward, but what can you do? And look, she had already cleared out her entire bot side jungle, Kraydon invading to try and be able to take something as a trade here, but it's not going to be anything available. They need to instantly jump onto bottom lane here like they're setting up. They need to do this dive, or they need to take the dragon, one or the other, but they need to do it now before the time has passed and you can have the rotations come through. There's no teleport from Horn. Here comes the teleport. This is a 4v2 dive down underneath the turret. This is looking good for Utah.
There it is, the first hits. Base Hoon uses his ult. Let's bounce. Everything is going down. That's an instant double kill. Kraydon uses the stopwatch. They're going to get first turret and put themselves ahead in gold again.
Yeah, nice systematic play. I want to see them giving the solo gold to James again. Yes, he jumps away. Nice elastic sling shot. He only gets the 100 from the global. That's going to be 2 systematic kills given carefully over to James, and then of course first turret as well. Really nice, systematic, careful play here from Utah as they're going to maybe be able to defend this turret. Nice shield.
I think they are.
And that's going to be Rift Herald. One more auto
Oh,
attack.
and there it is. Orianna goes in.
stopped.
1 auto attack. 2. They don't save it. It was so close.
Bought themselves a little bit of a time. Oh, Shyvana up here on the top side, it's really interesting. She's going to have to go to help this turret. This is scary for Varus, honestly. He does have his summoner series available, but they used his ultimate, so he can't actually defend this alone. You've got Zach and Janna on their way up. All right, good. I like this choice from Washington to just back off. There's too much. There's too little vision.
Too little on the
yeah, you don't know where everybody's at, and so you need to back off in that situation. Honestly, Shyvana, you should be recalling and continue taking your jungle pressure now to the other side of the map. Get that Cloud Drake on your own while the other members of your team can defend this push here onto the top side.
Now, I don't think that they're going to be able to. Lulu is heading up there to help Opa, but look at Lotus. He's down there just split pushing.
Call of the Forge God does hit. That's going to be a nice wave clear, honestly.
I didn't realize it dealt that much damage to those minions.
Oh, yeah. It's basically like a double Ezreal ult. It comes through, goes through once again. James here going to be clearing these out. You can see that attack speed is stacking up. Ardent Sensor hasn't been completed by Janna. She's not even close. Hasn't even built a part of that item, but I'm sure it'll come through as soon as she can finish it. Gonna finish out that support item first, maybe even tier 2 boots before she looks to complete that Ardent Sensor. Honestly, I would much rather see Ardent Sensor come through before the completed support item, and definitely before completed tier 2 boots, because attack speed Varus, before he has his own items, you already are donating so much of your gold that you've generated from those kills, from that solo turret. You want to be able to buff up this guy to be the answer, like he was last game. And so if you add thousands in gold stats with the Ardent Sensor and the Janna Shield, that's more AD, that's more attack speed, that's going to be a huge threat. That what is the answer? You got to run straight at him with Call of the Forge God, Dragon's Descent. You literally have to run straight at a Varus, but through a Janna, through a Nivea wall, through Kraydon and Swish here on these tanky frontliners. I don't see a way to actually effectively and consistently get to James in the back line, but he's standing next to a pillar, gonna get knocked up.
Opa does have the engage. They want to take down the turret. There's the ult from Lulu. A lot of damage. Adam Josh gets his ult down. Unstoppable. Let's bounce. Pulls them in. Opa is all alone. Base goes down, and Anivia is there. A whiffed ultimate. The Chains of Corruption do not land. Opa is running. Elastic Slingshot wants to get him close. The flash. Opa gets out safe.
Yeah, ultimately, it's going to be the turret falling and Lulu falling as well. James aggressively flashing forward once again. We saw it last game. He knows he's strong. He level 9, up a level over his matchup, and he's got a 40 CS lead with a couple of extra kills to boot. He is strong. With the Rage Blade stacked up on the turret, he said, I don't care. Oh my goodness.
Swish, he might be able to make it out. No, Shyvana is too fast with the burnout. He tried to dodge some damage and get the heal from the passive, but it is not enough. Solo kill.
Yeah, it's a really good choice. Nice pickup there by the Shyvana. She is really the win condition here for Washington. They're going to have to decide, do we want to take these 5v5 team fights that might not be in our favor just from these team compositions being so heavily AoE oriented here on red side, or are we going to have Shyvana split push because we're starting to realize that no one can take her in a 1v1?
Oh, I think you're right. Shyvana needs to be the reason these guys win. Ornn is good to be a lane presence. Orianna, good in the team fights. Your split pusher has to be your tanky damage dealing Shyvana.
Your tanky damage DPS mage, something, you know, like a Lee Sin champion spotlight coming to mind here.
Well, that's the thing, is you itemize like she already did with the Razor upgrade on the jungling item, and then you get some hit points because your passive with these drakes she's getting is going to be your beefiness, your tank.
Yeah.
And so she deals a lot more damage for building defensive, but this might be another good fight. James is knocked up, but they're just wrecking on this turret. Minions are all gone, and they disengage.
Yeah, it was mostly just using Call of the Forge God once again, like top lane, to try and just stop the siege by deleting the minion wave. You know that those turrets are going to have the backdoor bonus come back up when those minions are removed, and so nice choice there. But it shows you how far back on their back foot Washington is right now. If you have to use your key initiation spell just to wave clear, you know that you're not in a position to take any fights. Luckily, we're not so far into the game where there's another dragon, say an Elder Dragon, or even the Baron available for Utah to say, okay, you're wave clearing with Call of the Forge God, wave clear this, and they take Baron and bring Baroned up minions on their way to their base. So you can tell that it's going to take a little bit longer for either the team fight potential on blue side here for Washington to get to the point where they can take these fights, or for Shyvana to become unlocked to the level where she can just insta-clear waves on the side, run around, and be taking turrets on her own.
It's going to be a whole nother item, I think. We're going to wait for the Titanic Hydra before she can do the full wave clear. A lot of hit points coming from the Frozen Mallet, and so that's good to be able to stack with her resistances in her passive. Gives a little bit of extra damage, good sticking power because she already gains movement speed with that W, the burnout. So if you're slowing people and speeding yourself up, it's going to be much easier to chase and get those kills.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see a lot of resistances being built on Ornn. He wants to be he is the only front line, really, as we do have a fight in the top lane.
Looks like he goes in onto Lotus. Lotus is not going to get... No, never mind. He does land that condemn. Swish goes down. That was a 3v1. He had no chance.
Yeah, a little bit out of position there. Defending a very low turret, you've got to know that they're going to want to look for that fight. but ultimately that's going to be a trade in turrets with the extra kill on Swish. Swish holding on to his teleport. We'll have to see if they want to use that to trade, maybe even dive down here. This is a 3v2 with an on-hit Varus. He's a lot of attack speed, could take down this turret. There's not really much for them to do. Anivia's here too.
Baesoon already used his ult. Polymorph goes in onto Zac. That's an ult from Orianna, but that's Varus' ult, rooting God of Men. They're unstoppable to try and pull them in. No further engage. Kraydon trying his best. But look at this, that's a two-man push. They just killed Swish. He can't handle both of them. And here's the teleport going to come out from Soul Rush.
Yeah, you know, it looked like a pretty good fight for Utah. They got a nice cash onto God of Men. They forced his flash. His ultimate really didn't contribute. And James there was able to hammer on the turret for a little bit. But you look over on the other side of the map, and because they weren't actually able to push the turret down here on the bottom end, then Vayne and Shyvana, who have a lot of attack speed between the two of them, of course, were able to be extremely aggressive towards the turret. Flash over the wall. Soul Rush is getting chased down.
Barcode is in on to Soul Rush. Lotus carrying with him. Lotus is starting to pick this up. 3-1-0 on the Vayne.
Swish doing his March of the Ants cosplays. He just runs away. Like, there's not anything he can do there. So that's going to be an 0-2-0 on Soul Rush. The Anivia pick makes sense here with his own control. You saw the wall do work there on their little bit of an aggression onto God of Men under turret. But I'm not seeing the positioning being effective. 218 to 169. The mid lane difference here is actually pretty telling, but able to get a Mountain Drake, deny this from Shyvana, but is it really worth it? They're going to stop it and immediately teleport over to the Baron.
Swish is ready for this, but his team isn't quite there. There's the root, the knockback, and the ultimate. God of Men does get an ult and a kill onto Adam Josh, but here comes everybody else. God of Men is now dead. James picks up that kill. Barcode gets the ultimate, but gets hit by Varus's. There's the call of the Forge God. 3 knockups. Flash forward from Opa. Opa's dealing a lot of damage. James is kiting on the backside. Here comes Soul Rush, locking in his AD carry, and now Kraydon is dead. That is a 3-for-1 trade. Washington is ready for this Baron now.
Oh, man. Like, the teleport was the right play. You got to tell them you can't Baron right now. But as soon as you see them disengage and the Baron reset, you probably should cancel that. And if they start it back up, you walk that way because they don't have all their members starting on it. But honestly, getting the pick onto God of Men in exchange for Janna, you've won that right there. Back off. Don't chase into zero vision. But instead, they aggress too far. The Baron gets taken.
And then stay?
Man, this is a little dirty.
Oh, wow. Soul Rush, no reason to stay there. You're not going to steal it. Shyvana has Smite. They have 4 people. You've been poked off by Baesoon the entire time. Why would you stay there? Just disengage, meet up with Kraydon and James afterward. There was no reason to stay that long.
Soul Rush, my buddy, look, you're doing so well the other days on your nice comfort picks like Azir, like Brand even, but this Anivia pick, the Vel'Koz pick, not contributing. This one even getting him in trouble.
Adam Josh has to pop the stopwatch. There's another ult. This is a 3-for-0.
Goodness. There's so much damage now that you do have a GA completed for the extra AD and of course an extra life here on Barcode. The Shyvana, he's showing why he still went for this pick despite the struggle that he had last game. 6-0-5. He's unstoppable on this pick. And now with Baron pushing in multiple lanes, there's nothing that Soul Rush can do here. He's just, this is the name of the game. This is exactly what's going to happen to him every single time he shows up anywhere. Shyvana's going to be like, I'm sorry, do you like playing League of Legends? Well, too bad for you. You're out. Back. Gray screen simulator for the for the Soul Rush here on this Anivia.
This might be their fight. The ult from... No, Maokai doesn't touch anybody. They disengage for the safety of their mid lane turret, but it accomplishes nothing.
You know, and both these teams scale pretty well, because what I'm thinking here is, you know, it's good. If they can stop the Baron from being able to break open the base, that's a win. to a degree, right? That's stopping the bleeding at least,
At
right?
the
And
least.
so being able to stop the aggression from inhibitor turrets is a little small win here for University of Utah. But then I'm looking at the team compositions. Do they actually scale any better? I'm not sure. They're both really strong scaling compositions. You're going to see Anivia getting stronger as the later goes on. The game gets later, but James is also going to get stronger and stronger. He's got 3 core items. He's still probably a lot stronger than the Vayne just matched up 1 versus 1, or rather their DPS output to a fight. He's still probably doing a lot more if he can survive. But we're at the point right here in this mid game as we approach the late game where Ornn and Shyvana are able to say, I don't care what your damage is supposed to be, because you don't actually get to deal any damage when you're playing Gray Screen Simulator.
I agree with you. This went totally wrong for University of Utah. They had their decent start, they had the pushes in the bot lane, and they just lost control. Swish has been caught out of position, Soul Rush has been caught out of position. Lotus, who lost laning phase, you know, suddenly ahead, 5-1 and 2. There's just, Washington has come back very, very strong from the small deficits they had, and now they're almost 10,000 gold in the lead.
So much gold. There's only so much you can do when almost every member of the enemy team has, if not matched items, they have almost a full item over you, right? 10,000, if you divide that by 5 players, if it were equally distributed, that would be 2,000 gold. That's like an Athene's Holy Grail, like a decent mid-tier item in the inventory of every single member on blue side when you're going to be down that much power on red side.
And we can see it. We can count those items. You got 1.5 completed for Maokai to the 2 1/3 for Ornn. You've got just the 1 for Zach versus the 2.5. No, sorry, 2 and let's call it 3/4. But we're going to have to talk about that later because they're fighting underneath this turret.
Yeah, luckily, Anivia has enough damage that her Glacial Storm is going to do enough to wave clear now that the Baron has worn off. And with the short range of Vayne, there's only so much you can actually do in a siege. So I feel like this is a little bit of a waste of time unless they're looking for the dive. And you can see him clumping up there. This could be pretty bad. Call of the Forge God.
The knockup is going to hit 4, but it didn't hit James, and it was too far to the side. They couldn't get a good dive.
Yeah, at least they backed off far enough that Shyvana would not be in range to follow up that Call of the Forge God with a Dragon's Descent into multiple members. But you can see how scary this can get for University of Utah. This is a cannon wave. They are backing up, though. It looks like they're not going to take this fight. And that inhibitor turret's going to regenerate over the next few minutes.
And that's good for them. Understanding that, like you were mentioning earlier, the Oriana ball on Shyvana is dangerous.
Oh, yes.
The knockup from the Call of the Forge God, Dragon's Descent onto a couple other people into the Shockwave would just decimate the University of Utah lineup. They only have the 2 beefy guys in Swish and Kraton, but that would instantly take out Adam Josh.
Yeah, and if you can catch even one person on the tip of that command shockwave, you're going to reposition that person into a compromised spot. And Lotus here has 2 energized items for the Zeals. That means he's going to have that extra long range crit, likely a critical strike, the 70% crit right there, and he's likely going to get a massive crit damage auto attack onto whomever that squishy target is. Because if we're looking at just the threat of Shockwave, there's actually a lot of magic resist in the items of even Soul Rush on top of his 2 tanks. There's not much armor, though, outside on Soul Rush. So if he's in a poor position, he's going to get deleted by the Vayne being able to auto-attack him. And unfortunately, that's been what's happened a few times, where somehow Soul Rush, meant to be this backline AoE mage, has been caught. 0-4-0, broken stopwatch, Archangel's barely completed, and I guess he's looking likely for a Void Staff next to cut through, but he's still sitting. We're at 30 minutes now.
Yeah.
30 minutes, and you're Anivia, one of the slowest champions in the game, sitting on boots 1. This is trouble.
It is trouble. we're seeing what I think is a lack of communication from the University of Utah for the first time, and then an increase for the side of Washington. They just seem to be so much more coherent than they were the first game. They're ready to take this Baron.
Oh, nice pink ward in the pit. This is going to be in full vision of both teams.
Oh, but there's the jump in. It's down to almost 1,000. The Smite goes in. Blue team gets it. That's Barcode picking that up. Kraydon is in the midst. Going to go down. That passive not going to save him. Dragon's Descent flashes over the wall. Swish tries to disengage, has to flash away. Soul Rush putting down the Glacial Storm to try and continue the disengage. And Washington win yet another fight with a Baron to boot.
Yeah, I mean, nice play there. Honestly, you just can't go for a steal there. You want to go for a better fight. I would have liked to see Kraydon trying to take a good engage, not taking the possible steal. Level 16 Shyvana to level 12 Zac. The smite difference there is significant. It's not a 50-50. It's a freeload Baron for Barcode here, as they're just nailing multiple members. Janna falls. There's going to be Swish falling as well. Multiple inhibitor turrets going down. Barcode now on the second inhibitor. And you can see Lotus just chasing Soul Rush down, who's going to flash, use Exhaust, but still blinking red health bars.
Way too many fights going on for the University of Utah. They were missing players. There's another flash forward. And Lotus is in the late game state, just going to deal so much damage with the new runes and the new items, and they're on the Nexus. The Nexus is going down, and that's a victory for Washington.
Yeah, almost a 16,000 gold lead in favor of Washington. Last game looked extremely convincing for University of Utah. Their performance, especially on James, him flashing forward, being aggressive. We saw more of it this game, and it was good when it happened, but this amazing Shyvana performance ended the game 6-0-9. Multiple dragons, multiple fights around the Baron just going easily in their favor. Nice job by Barcode. You saw the challenger of University of Utah pop off in game 1. Now game 2, you saw the same happen, but in the reverse. The challenger player from University of Washington putting on a beautiful performance.
It was amazing to watch. Just the difference between the two games on the same champion is fantastic. Huge improvement coming in for, what was his name?
Barcode?
Barcode's the one.
In the jungle?
Yeah, in the jungle. Huge improvement coming from Barcode. Much better communication. They weren't afraid to lose the lane down in the bot lane either, because Vayne scaled better than the Twitch did, and it was just a better game for them.
Yeah, you got to stop this poor draft, honestly. Somehow it magically went in favor. The early game went in favor. It wasn't so much the draft, it was just that the early game went in favor of University of Utah for game 1. And then this second game, the drafts are still somewhat similar. Not many changes to the bans, to even the picks. And ultimately, it ended up being that James isn't able to pop off. You've got the Shyvana that's just wrecking the entire map, doing what she had hoped to do in game 1, actually having it happen in game 2, and taking over the entire Rift with that pick.
Yeah, and it begs the question: how will it change next time? Will they ban the Shyvana, or do you think they're gonna not ban Azir and Gragas and play those into them?
Why? I mean, it seems a no-brainer. Like, you don't need to be Heimerdinger to know that it's a better choice to ban out Shyvana, the most played champion of the highest rated player of the enemy team, and give your mid laner, who's been struggling this whole series, his comfort pick of Azir. Right. I mean, they're banning out Aurelion Sol. Azir is the next in line in terms of his most played champions, and in terms of strength for this meta, Azir is way up there, and the enemy mid laner doesn't even play it. So University of Utah, please stop banning Azir. Ban Shyvana and give yourself a free win.
Or if you are trying to spell something like we joked about, ban Aatrox, so you still have the A, pick Azir.
Yeah, and that's it for game 2 then. The victory now going over to University of Washington. Really well played there. So we're going to go on to game 3, the last game of this match. So we're going to go to a quick break to let them prepare, these two teams prepare for their final match here today. Don't go anywhere. I'm Superman. This is Jihadre. We'll be right back with more League of Legends action right after this.
can't let them win. There's an evil inside, they're just lurking way down below. And if I can't hold my breath, then I'm bound to become hollow. Can you say that I disappeared? Can you say that I wasn't there for you when you went into hiding on the front steps of your porch? And I reflected on the memories, but I put out that torch. Hey! But I put out that torch. You make me feel like home. You turn around, I feel the breeze over me. You watch your dreams unfold. Let it come around and let it breathe over me. It's time to go away into the light. I feel the calming energy. I see the darkness coming, and I'm calling you to help me set me free. I'm calling for you. I'm calling for you. I'm calling for you.
Throwing caution to the wind. I'll take a chance and let you in. Just take my hand and take me home tonight. We defeat all impossibilities. Yeah, you and me. We'll take our hearts and run free into the wild.
And welcome back to Utah Esports broadcast of today's matchup between University of Utah and University of Washington. We've had a 1-1 situation coming in here. This is going to be our third match, the final match of this best of 3. Whoever wins this game takes the set. So with these two teams primed and ready, they're going to be setting up that lobby, and we're going to be hopping into Champions League to see how the draft goes. I'd love to see some changes from the last two drafts.
A lot of changes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Keep the Nunu and the Tom Kench bans.
They're
Those
decent.
are good.
Yeah.
Stop banning his ear.
Yeah,
Just
stop
stop
banning
it.
his ear. Like, we've talked about how this just makes zero sense for University of Utah. Their mid laner, Soul Rush, has dominated on that pick in previous games that we've been able to cast from them, from University of Utah's varsity squad taking on different teams, for just random, like, either scrimmages that we've been able to practice our casts with, or honestly, he plays it really, really well, and it's a strong pick in this meta right now. Versus the enemy mid laner doesn't actually play it at all, right? The God of Men has not had a single Azir game in the last 2 years. Maybe he's had it in ARAM or something like that, right? But he doesn't play it competitively, right? So I don't understand banning it at all. Red or blue side, first pick, not first pick, you know that God of Men does not actually play that contestable pick. And if that's the case, force them to ban it. You waste one of their bans. Maybe you get a better, higher priority pick for a different role. And if they don't ban it, you get this comfort, high priority S-tier pick for your mid laner who's honestly been underperforming in these last 2 games.
Right, so get him up to par. And then the next thing we need to talk about is how they're going to deal with Barcode, because he popped off last game and did exactly what Shyvana is meant to do.
Yes.
They need to have an answer for it, whether it's banning it out, whether it's getting a better counter pick, or, you know, what the hey, could Kraydon play it? I've seen it in his. I saw it in his recent history as well. It's not as high as some of the others, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the Shyvana could be a contested pick, but it seems the second step of the no-brainer, which is don't ban Azir, swap out that ban for Shyvana.
There you go.
Right? If it's not your highest pick and you're not really looking for that pick, you definitely want to get Barcode off of it because he dominated last game and you don't want that free win donated to them. Take the free win for yourself. Take away that type of win condition from their squad and open up the Azir for yourself, or force them to ban the Azir. It seems just so simple in my mind. It drives me absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, talking with you in the break, it's actually tilting you. It's pretty funny to watch, actually.
Because it just seems so obvious, right?
Yeah.
It seems so obvious. And honestly, if they're taking a hard look at themselves, University of Utah, if they're taking a hard look at the mistakes that have come through in that loss, a lot of it is around that mid lane. Soul Rush is a great player, but you can have bad games, especially when you don't get comfortable picks, comfortable matchups, and jungle pressure. Jungle was being pressured by Shyvana, by Barcode. University of Washington had the invade pressure. Shyvana was owning the rift. That means you're on your own in the 1v1 in mid lane, essentially. And if that's the case, you need to be on a comfort pick and a comfortable matchup, if not a winning one. And so I need to see that priority, especially if you have red side pick, counter pick mid lane. If you're not going to pick the Azir, or for whatever reason you're going to be dumb and ban it, then at least counter pick for Soul Rush.
Savage.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't stand it. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think some other changes we need to see are up in the top lane. Why is Gnar not being played?
Yeah, that's an interesting
It's
one.
an amazing pick. Both players play it. They both play Gangplank. And, okay, let's talk about that real quick. Gangplank is...
Been banned both games.
Yeah, he's been banned both games by the team who wants to play him.
Well, both of them kind of play that champion, but honestly, to play style. Yeah, to play style.
Washington's top laner has more games on Gangplank than Swish has on his top 3 combined.
Yeah.
Why are they banning that one? Okay, fine. Doesn't fit in with the team comp because you want Ornn, because you want Malphite, that you're better engaged. That's great. But then you shift it, right? You shift it.
Yeah.
You give
play to that strength.
Play to it. It's huge.
Even with the Klepto nerfs coming through for 8.2, and you see that perhaps there's more reason to not pick the Gangplank for that reason. Talked about today on some of the LCS broadcasts, the analysts were talking about how it's still a contestable pick. It's really still a strong pick. There are very few downsides to Gangplank. You fall behind, you can still contribute to team fights, you can still wave clear and push, and even more so, there are other keystones that still work for him.
Oh, yeah.
Grasp is really strong for quasi-infinite sustain in lane. You get tankier in the sense that you have more health. As you scale throughout the game, you're still going to have very few poor matchups, and so ultimately, there's no real big downside to picking that. So it has been, rightly so, banned out for those first 2 games. But if it makes it through the draft, I want to see it picked. And the
Agreed.
Shen pick is also contested between these 2 players.
Yes, and that was another one I really wanted to talk about because Shen is great. What a fantastic champion for this meta. It'll protect your AD carry. It has good engage. He's got that block field. He's got the bonus damage. There is nothing wrong with picking Shen.
Even, or especially because in a draft, you want to play those mind games, and flex picks do so much for you. And the Shen can actually be flexed down to the support role.
And in the jungle.
Yeah, the jungle is a little less.
It's harder to do.
Yeah, there's a lot better picks for the jungle, but Shen can have similar strength to some of these other picks we've seen come through. Of course, he does not do the same things as these Ardent, Sensor, Shield, Heal supports that are very, very support-based, but being able to initiate team fights, being able to take teleport on like an unsealed spellbook, being able to teleport or use your ult to save a solo laner even, or do a 3-man dive in mid or top, and then just teleport back to save your AD carry as they think that they can return dive underneath the turret in bottom lane, that's really, really, really strong from a macro perspective.
There are so many plays you can make with the Shen, right? It takes the pressure off your jungler to be the sole initiator. It takes the pressure off your support if you're the top and vice versa. And then even if you're not there, you do the submarine tactic. You get whoever is, you know, your next initiator and just ult them and have them start the fight. It happened especially with the likes of they did it on Zed back in the day. They do it on Twitch. You can do it on Rengar. All sorts of these invisible champions and people who can just get in the backline. You instantly shield them. And even better if they pair it with like a Galio. I think a Galio could be really interesting to see here as well.
I was talking with one of my colleagues in the break saying what can be done differently in this draft? What are some other picks? If they still ban Azir, obviously Anivia didn't work too well.
No.
The Vel'Koz wasn't terrible, but it really wasn't that great. What can we put Soul Rush onto in mid that could be actually pretty strong? And my buddy, he said, maybe the Galio. You know, it's not a hard champion to play, and it can follow up pretty well with the playstyle. Imagine if Soul Rush is able to use Galio ult on top of this Zac Maokai type engage potential.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and then James can be a screen away from any threat while still putting out as much pain as possible in these fights. And you know James will be able to position well as long as there aren't threats that are right in his face, right? And even so, you've seen him play really, really well. And so as much as you can donate onto the ability for James to be able to DPS in these fights, that's the win condition for Utah Esports. We've seen it over and over and over again, and I want to see them doubling down on that and put Soul Rush on something either easy to play or and that helps with the peel, or at the very least, put him on a comfort pick.
Right.
Even if it doesn't miss your match your composition that well, I would rather see Soul Rush picking up something he's used to playing, or that is just generally a lot of games played, like an Orianna even that we saw from the other side. God of Men had that last game, and it was a comfort pick. I want to see that kind of a pick for Soul Rush, please.
And, you know, that's exactly what you need to do. The mid lane is the key position, right? It leads to everywhere else. If you're losing that lane, you're losing a whole lot of ground. But now we can see a couple of these bans coming out here. We see Nunu. We see Tahm Kench. Fantastic. Great bans. One that you can't see here on the side of Washington is Aurelion Sol. I think that's a good ban. We've been talking about that. That is Soul Rush's #1 played champion.
Yeah, it's really, really smart. You're going to want to ban out the comfort picks. If you are, we've been talking about how Utah needs to prioritize a comfort pick for Soul Rush. If Washington could just say, right, by banning out whatever those comfort picks are, then they're going to keep putting that pressure on. Now that's the 3rd game in a row that they've banned out Aurelion Sol, his most played by far, and good. That's a very, very smart choice by Washington. So I want to see the rest of these bans come through and see what actually ends up being prioritized for these two teams, because honestly, this draft was we've seen in the last 2 games, these are pretty closely matched teams. In terms of skill, there's not some sort of outclassing happening. I mean, you've seen, yes, bottom lane is extremely strong in the 2v2 for the side of Utah versus Washington. Mid lane seems pretty equal. It depends on the matchup. The jungle is going in favor of Barcode in most of these, especially when he gets that Shyvana and gets an early lead on it. And in top lane, it's just that wet noodle fight, right? And so there's not a lot happening up there, but we have the Azir.
I was going to say, I have good news for you. There's the first pick Azir, exactly what we needed to see from the University of Utah. This is going to be the way that they're going to come back, and it is coupled with the Shyvana ban as well.
That's really, really smart. It's precisely what I was asking them to do, right? I was saying, please, please ban out the Shyvana. take the Azir instead. It makes no sense to have been doing it the other way around, opening up a Shyvana for the other team. You got to do better scouting than that, right?
Right.
And I love these two picks, right? We've seen Adam Josh do really well on those tanky front line, somewhat peel-oriented supports. He doesn't have to initiate. Swish has a lot of support now, because if Adam Josh can stop aggression from coming through onto Azir and Adam Josh at the same time, right? Adam Josh helping James and Soul Rush be safe on these backline DPS champions that they love to play, you know that that's going to be a huge threat. So now I just want to see more of that front line to help Adam Josh keep the peel out there. A little bit more initiation tools would be great. This Skarner pick, though, is interesting to me.
It is, but it's the same style as Shyvana. It's going to run in your face and just hit you. It'll have more crowd control with that with the E stun and everything like that, and he'll have a shield, a little bit more utility in there, and that ultimate is a whole lot more simple to just grab a carry and walk away.
Yeah, the buffs to Skarner a couple patches back that gave him an increased stun duration on his E, giving him a little bit more power in the earlier game before level 6, or even when that's on cooldown. There's a really strong buffs to that champion, and honestly, it's the expected pick for Barcode here. In solo queue over the last few years, it's just been the Shyvana, the Nunu, the Rek'Sai, and the only other one on that list other than Gragas is going to be that Skarner, and he's pretty high up there in terms of games played. So it's still a comfortable pick. It's a decently strong pick in this meta, so a no-brainer pick for Barcode there, but we'll have to see if he's actually as good on Skarner as we saw him perform on Shyvana, because even in the loss on that first game, he was trying to do the same things and getting pretty close to doing the type of tasks, like taking those early dragons and being that damage threat in the front line that he was massively in Game 2.
Sejuani is the answer, though. I like that they pick it right after. Sejuani is super strong, has all those extra resistances, amazing wave clear, great initiation with that ultimate, and with her Q, there's just so much that Sejuani can bring to this game. Even though it's not Zac and it's not quite as long range, it's perfect for the likes of Kraydon.
Yeah, I do like that pick. You know that Kraydon likes to be that tanky frontline initiator for his team, and that he's well practiced at that. You saw in both of these games, he took pretty good fights for his team when possible. They fell behind enough that he couldn't take the fights he really wanted to near the end, and as it got further and further behind, 15K is a lot of gold to be down. And so you can't really fault him for not being able to use the Zac effectively as the game got later in Game 2, but we can expect pretty good things from Kraydon here on Sejuani. But interestingly enough, it's Game 1's bottom lane from Utah that is now on the side of Washington. They took half of it last game, and now they've got the whole thing.
And I was just about to mention that. I want to see if they... Oh, hello. And then they also picked up the top laner from Utah's draft from the first game. And so I wonder if they're trying to recreate that success that they saw. But here's the other thing. We wanted to see the Zoe banned, and it didn't happen. Just talking about the last bans while we're saying that we wanted Zoe out of there, we saw Shen banned, we talked about him, and then there's Kog'Maw that got out, and then the one we can't see over there is Vladimir.
And Aurelion Sol, right?
Yeah, Aurelion Sol over on Washington side. Now is the time. Do we get to see the Gangplank, or is that not really going to work? It'll fight Maokai pretty well, but as for the team fight, I think it's still a good pick. You have the longer range of Tristana and Azir staying behind Braum and Sejuani. There's plenty of engage, and Gangplank will be useful no matter what. You just throw down that ultimate. It deals damage. It slows. Depending on your upgrade, it might send, it raises the morale of your teammates in it. Yeah. I think it's just a good pick, but we're going to have to see. I like the pickups here. I like the way the draft has shifted, though. Tristana is still very strong in this meta, and so I like James on that.
Absolutely. The Tristana's pick will scale beautifully into late game, and honestly, there's some other reasons to have picked Tristana here. You know that one of the win conditions here, one of the initiation win conditions for Washington, is going to be Barcode grabbing a priority pick on the Skarner, right? He's going to grab somebody really important, and he's going to pull them into the team, likely followed up with like a sleepy bubble trouble, and that's going to delete a priority member. But, of course, Azir's going to take Cleanse. That's not going to work on the Suppress, but it'll work on like the bubble or Roots or things like that, the ultimate coming through from Varus. But more importantly, this Tristana pick, the Buster Shot, can hopefully push away the Skarner before he grabs someone, but
Right.
there's also the possibility of you basically buster shotting one of your
Yourself,
teammates
right into it.
the enemy team, so that's a little bit scary. You're going to have to watch how that interaction happens. As we'll get here into Game 3, the last pick coming through, not going to be the Gangplank. Instead, I like this, the Gnar. You mentioned that it's been missing. MIA, banned out in Game 1, not banned in Game 2, but not picked either. We see it come through here for Game 3. Swish. A lot of games played on this champion, and so he's going to be the other source of initiation and a beautiful split push potential here on the side for Utah. And they are going to be red side, so that's the nice counter pick. You know that that's going to be a good lane for the Maokai, or excuse me, against the Maokai, into the Maokai. And Mega Gnar, you want to pull that into your team?
Yes.
Barcode's going to have to be really careful on this Skarner with his, not only the choice he makes on who he's going to pull into the team, but the timing. Because if you pull in Soul Rush and he has, say, an Hourglass or something like that, if you pull him in and you say, yeah, we cut the mid laner, if you don't, even if you do instantly delete him, but somehow Swish has a nice flank and he has Mega Gnar available, yeah, you're trading 1 for 4 in that situation at the very minute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like the Gnar pick. It's better than the Gangplank. It's got a lot more teamfight presence. It's got a better split push presence. It's got a better laning phase against the Maokai. It's all around, it's a better pick. And so I'm really proud of Swish. I'm really proud of both teams even really rounding out their pick ban phase. That draft was so much better than the last one.
Yes, and honestly, this is going to look a lot more like the competitive 5v5 team compositions we've seen in across the regions of competitive play, right?
I agree.
This mid lane matchup is a lot more interesting. It's a lot more common. You're going to have the Azir versus the Zoe. That's going to be a skill matchup, right? You have to dodge out the bubble trouble, and Zoe's going to have to avoid taking the damage and not getting tossed in, right?
Yeah.
The shifting sands into Shurima Shuffle, right? It's going to be that, Emperor's Divide can do so much work for this. Not only can it disengage against the Skarner, but it can also reposition the Zoe or catch out the Yeti carry even and put them in a bad position for any of these fights to start out. So Azir can make a huge impact in some of these team fights as well, either be it initiating or disengaging, but also, of course, so can Zoe. Zoe can catch a priority target and absolutely delete them. You've seen 80 carries getting one shot left and right. Same can happen to Azir.
One of the things that I really like is the synergy between Azir and Gnar. Something I really want to see. It might not happen, but I set little goals for every game. I played Poppy the other day against the Trundle, and the only thing I wanted to do was charge him into his own pillar. That was my only goal. I didn't care if I win or lost. It happened. It happened really early, and then I ended up losing, so that was a bummer. But what I want to see is a big Emperor's Divide throwing 3 or 4, and then an immediate Gnar to just ram them all right back into it to end the team fight. It would be fantastic to see something like that. Maybe we can see that kind of synergy come through these picks because they are important. They're comfortable. They're huge. They're going to be great in the lane matchup and later on in the game to be what this team needs to win.
Yeah, and honestly, these are beautiful compositions, a nice draft from both teams. I like the bans from both sides. I like the picks from both sides. They made the adjustments that we talked about. Honestly, both teams made some really good adjustments. I like the fallback onto Skarner does a lot of the same things that you want from that Shyvana. He puts a lot of threat onto the carries of University of Utah. Now, just to give our viewers a little bit of an update, we did have a bug come through. One of the players disconnected from that champion select, so we're just going to recreate it just as you did. The picks will remain the same, bans will remain the same, but they're going to have to recreate that lobby, so it'll just be a little bit of a delay. But during that time, let's talk about some things. I want to talk about how both of these organizations, University of Utah, University of Washington, are actually some of the earlier universities, especially on the side of the Pacific Northwest and closer here to the West Coast, that actually these two teams, their student-run organizations are massive. And they're heads and shoulders above and beyond a lot of other universities that are even barely now starting to move towards having established esports, whether it be clubs, departments, and let alone, of course, things like this, where they're competing at the collegiate level. University of Washington, they started out back in 2011 even. They had a club, and I like it. Their colors, as you can see on your screen, it's that grayish, the tannish color, and the purple. They were the association or something to that effect of purple caster minions.
Oh
I
my
really
gosh,
you
there
know,
you go.
other than red versus blue, if you're not in colorblind mode, then it's going to be the purple casters
Mm-hmm.
versus blue casters. And way back when, of course, that was standard. And so I really like that they started out way back when with such a nice club that has ultimately evolved to something well established, where at this level they have challenger player on their team, Diamond Plus players of their whole squad, really nice established team that's honestly respectable. We've seen here on our own stream the different games the different scrimmages and of course matchups for uLoL that we've casted, University of Utah being really dominant, right? You've seen them 2-0 plenty of teams in complete dominating fashion. But here, going 1-1 against Washington and getting honestly destroyed in game 2 from Barcode's Shyvana pick shows you that Washington is not a school to forget about. They're not a team that you can just say, we don't have to do any, we don't have to scout them and ban our own Azir. We don't have to scout them. No, you have to. You have to pay attention to these players. They're good. You're going to see these names pop up. There's even a possibility that some of these players will want to take their own esports career a little bit further. With play like Barcode's Shyvana in last game, you could see that popping off in semi-pro to pro play some years down the line. So University of Washington, not someone to underestimate.
No, and definitely not. And, the University of Utah is in the same boat. Like you've been saying, we've been watching them scrim and play their games and just dominate everything else. It's a huge blessing to be involved in all of this, to see such a high level and to see esports evolving where, I've had this discussion with a couple people. Could you imagine a world without scholarships for football and basketball and things like that?
No, it's like
it's
unthinkable.
Insane. And so esports coming in and becoming that same or hopefully becoming something to that same level, being organized more than just the clubs, more than just a couple of games here and there, but having regions and brackets and everything else there. And it's actually being they have that here. It's being called the PAC-G. It is the Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers. The students and they formed these e-clubs, 11 universities right now in the PAC-G, all from all the Pac-12 regions. Everybody knows where that is. It's all this western side. They band together to create their own collegiate league wherein their teams will compete against each other in various competitions. And it's more than just League of Legends. You got Overwatch and Hearthstone, and it's amazing. So we want to encourage everybody to not only continue following these games for these teams, but to follow the PAC-G itself. That's going to be at Pacific ACG to get all of the updates, see what teams are there. And you know what? I bet you anything you could find the links to the Eastern and the North and the South, everybody. You could probably get everywhere.
Yeah, the collegiate scene is just growing exponentially, it seems, almost every year. And this is such an exciting development here on the west side of the United States, where you're having the PAC-G, right? You said it. It's the Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers. These are student-run, grassroots organizations that have banded together to create this series. The Pac-12 wasn't entirely on board. The Pac-10 has their own series for League of Legends that's officiated by the Pac-10 organization. The Pac-12 has been lagging on that. And so it's been the students saying, no, we want this. And if you're not going to do it for us, we're going to do it ourselves. And so everything from production to tournament administration, and of course the teams, the players themselves are so excited and on board with this kind of an idea that they're going to be putting together this series, multi-week series, leading to, of course, a playoff, a final, a championship, where you're going to be seeing teams like these, of this caliber, taking each other on week after week after week, multiple games per week, where they're going to be having quality League of Legends competition. And you'll get to see more of it right here on this channel, University of Utah Esports on Twitch. You can follow us at University of Utah Esports. You can follow, of course, at Pacific ACG and either of our channels, too, at SupermanCasting, at Jihadre, because we're going to be casting the PAC-G as well. Starting up, again, that's going to be the first matchups will be actually this coming up Monday, a couple weeks from now, to be the 12th of February, that you guys can catch. We'll be beginning with League of Legends action, actually, on that date. Again, mark your calendars, February 12th. PAC-G is going to be starting right here on this channel, University of Utah Esports on Twitch.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, on this level is so much bigger. It's it's high, it's challenger, it's plus diamond. Like you said, these guys might go on to be semi-pro/pro players one day. This is the place to watch. This is the place to get your roots. You watch LCS.
Yeah.
Do that for that kind of training, but then understand and realize there are people, our age, mid-20s, just barely getting into it. They're this good. We can be this good.
Yeah.
It's
just
amazing.
take some practice and discipline, and it's good to have structured organizations in place that allow for that kind of competition to take place. You don't want people just hoping that they hit the top of solo queue, hit top 200 challenger, and somehow get magically noticed by someone. There's a lot of competition. It's a saturated field in esports, and so you're going to have at least for the collegiate side, you talked about scholarships, is a really valuable enterprise to be able to say, look, I'm not a basketball player, but you know what I am good at? I'm good at League of Legends. I'm good at Hearthstone. I'm good at Overwatch. And so, you know what? I can put some of my time and effort into practicing that craft that I'm good at, and hopefully that can take me through a higher education into a field that I'm interested in, maybe even esports.
And it just keeps growing from there, right? We can get more casting talent. We can get more player talent.
Yes.
The organization itself will grow the more people get into it.
The level of competition will continue to rise and rise. You're already seeing that these two teams you're watching today, these are high caliber teams with high tier players playing against each other in this high level of play. Excellent draft potential. These teams have coaches behind them that are helping with these drafts. And we are here finally on to Summoner's Rift with University of Utah taking on University of Washington in this best of 3, 1-1 so far. So this is match point here on Summoner's Rift. I'm Superman. Casting alongside me is Ben Jihadre Sorensen, and we're going to be looking to see how this game plays out because this is a nail-biter. These teams have been close. Game 1 was a stomp in favor of University of Utah, and the opposite was true for Game 2.
The hype is so real. The first slow is there. Flash immediately blown for base Hun. That happened last game, too. He had to burn his flash before level 1.
Yes, it was true, and ultimately it did end up netting them a 1-for-1 in kills in the bottom side with that kind of an invade, but that was just with a 2v2. Now stacking 5 people for this game, you know that that's going to give you a little bit more pressure.
Right, and I like the move from Washington right here. Immediately they move into the top side jungle because they know all 5 members are down there, so they're probably going to try and take this red buff on this pillar. The Skarner pillar is huge. Being on the pillars, he gains attack speed, movement speed, and I believe he gets something else. But it's key to playing Skarner.
It seems like a misplay in my mind, though, to actually have taken that pillar when they did. Because Gnar's going to know that they're in there. Gnar's going to know that they're close, because by taking that pillar, it shows up on the minimap. It turns blue instead of staying the neutral gray or being red, and it's like, if you do that, you're giving that kind of early necessary information over to, oh my goodness, Maokai's Sapling actually stole it. That's so bad. Luckily, it didn't happen on a ward, so that Utah's not going to know that you've had barcodes set behind like this. Now they do, as Maokai's going to walk into lane, hit level 2 early. He's definitely going to look to try and bully out top lane, because that's the best you can do to try and fix that bad of a situation. But Adam Josh took a little bit of a poke down here.
Yeah. I think it's because Braum is such an in-your-face type of champion, and Lulu has the range, as does Varus. That Glitter Lance deals so much more damage than it looks like it should with how much it slows, and I think that was just a miscalculation there, just being poked by the 3 sources of damage there, auto attack, and Glitter Lance.
Yeah, and so you're going to see that Skarner's going to be slowed down in the jungle by losing that first buff. And of course, because they knew that red buff was quote-unquote taken by the enemy jungler on the top side, then Shyvana plays to the other side of the, like, almost as though the mid lane is in its parallel form is like the line of scrimmage for these junglers, so to speak. And so Shyvana's going to have taken the red buff from this bottom side.
Sejuani. I believe you mean Sejuani.
Oh, sorry, I can't even remember what I said, but yeah, it's going to
used to Shyvana from the last 2 games.
Oh yes, it is. S word, right? So okay, so Sejuani is going to have already taken 2 buffs. She's up a little bit in that CS, and you can see that's going to give her this extra pressure. Now, I like that University of Washington is not trying to be extra aggressive in this bottom side because they know that Sejuani's likely here. She's nearby. Even if she's not sitting in the brush or sitting in the lane, she's pretty close. Basetoon is trying to get some of these poke down, use the procs of his Spell Thieves, but with level 3 being there, Kraydon is getting a nice flank. I just said how they were avoiding this, but this is going to be so free.
And that's exactly what it was. A great jump in. Adam Josh gets the concussive blows in. James a couple auto attacks, and there it is. But the most important, 3 people helped in that kill. There was a double assist. That's more gold. That's more experience. It's good.
Yeah, and the explosion from James's Tristana E passive actually ended up coming through, killing a minion as Lulu died. So
yes.
Because it was simultaneous gold, then funnily enough, it was 420 was the number that popped up for that first blood kill.
Hey,
so it was funny enough. So that's going to be first blood for James, as they already donated solo Skarner Tower gold on their invade, so you can tell they're definitely focusing all of that gold income onto James, giving him bonus 15. So we're going to take a quick replay pretty soon here of that kill. We want to see this beautiful flank here from Sejuani, getting the nice position. They baited them into the fight, knowing that they were down levels 2 to 3s, and then of course James flashing not flashing, but rocket jumping aggressively forward, using his heal to make sure he stayed healthy enough not to fall. And I like the discipline of James not using that reset to try and jump onto Lotus as he got closer to the turret.
Right, and then the other thing we need to remember, it was a good juke from Basetoon because he dodged that Winter's Bite, but then he couldn't move fast enough. Braum just ran right up in his face. You know, Adam Josh getting there, getting that first auto attack, which is what eventually procced that stun. So very well played there. Again, getting all 3 of them in. Sejuani was in close enough range to get that flail of the Northern Winds? The flail.
Yeah.
Get it in there, get that assist. Fantastic play. And that is what we were talking about that we needed to see coming back. That's what we need to see these teams do, is that extra communication and get clean, good fights and ganks.
You know, what was supposed to be a good setup here for University of Utah in the top lane, this matchup is supposed to be going in favor of the Gnar, but he's down 12 CS, being pushed under the turret. Something's going terribly wrong up there. He must have taken a poor fight early on, but you can see on your screen the CS numbers. The difference is going heavily in favor of the solo laners here for University of Washington as Sejuani visits bottom side again.
Oh, burns the flash, and that's an instant disengage. Good flash, good force. So a successful gank is not determined by whether you get a kill or not. It's the effectiveness of it. Now, Varus, who has no leaps or jumps or teleports, doesn't have his flash.
Yeah, and it's those smart trades. It's what do you invest and what do you get back out. It's cost-benefit analysis. And with the Braum using his flash to trade it for Lotus's flash, always going to be worth it, right? Because you have a lot more repositioning tools and a lot more tankiness on this Adam Josh. He's not the game-breaking threat that Lotus can be on this Varus. And so to trade those flashes is always going to be worth it. And so if you can make sure that that happens, you're going to want to take that trade every time.
Exactly. And now, you know, our advantage, I think what happened in the top lane, we were talking about how Gnar is kind of falling behind. I think what happened, Mini Gnar is not as powerful as Mega Gnar. You need the range. That's why he has the boomerang, why he gets that 3-hit passive on the Hyper, is because he needs to stay away. With the red buff on the Maokai, I think that Maokai, being the tankier of the two with the red buff, could just posture himself in to do those aggressive trades, push him out, knock him back with the Bramble Strike, and you know, it seems to be working. He's already 15 CS up.
Yeah, it is really working for them, and we'll have to see if that translates into further macro advantages. But honestly, Soul Rush here keeping up pretty close in farm. Nice dodge out there. Not going to take the poke damage from the Paddle Star. Luckily, we're seeing the Azir paying off at least. He's not having any sort of loss in pressure. He's keeping Zoe relatively pushed in, actually, meaning that he'll be the first to rotate as they do spot out Skarner on this bottom side of the map. Remember, he's approaching level 6, and that's when there's a huge power spike for him. He has his ultimate available to him that's Suppress, that'll pull a priority target from the enemy team out of position into the middle of their own team.
Now, I'm interested in these levels here. It looked like Lotus got level 6. James did not, even though he's got the kill. And then Adam Josh even. It must have been when he went to go get that BF sword that James lost a little bit of experience because he's still level 5. Nope, I take it back. He just barely leveled up.
Yeah, a little bit far behind. It might have been like a ward kill or something that made the difference.
Okay, yeah.
But ultimately, everybody's going to be level 6 on that bottom side. Lulu a little bit far behind, but I'm sure we'll grab it as these minions hit the turret. She did die the one time, though, so she might be further behind. That will be the solo experience that would have gone over to Varus.
Right.
But long story short, it's going to be Opa finally taking the poor trades here on the top side, despite being up a little bit in CS. So you're going to want to see Swish continue to take these good trades. You can see that he has that Airy that's always going to be, giving him bonus damage, but nice catch down here. It's a 1v4 situation because the bottom lane had just based. Nice choice by University of Washington to start up this Dragon.
Oh, they went in. Tristana is in there too. That's a Lulu ult, and Kraton goes down. Barcode does secure the Drake, and there's a teleport from Maokai, answered here by Swish. Swish is there onto Lotus. The ultimate goes down and gets the kill onto James. Soul Rush is there. That's an ult into the wall. Opa goes down. Sleepy Trouble Bubble deals a ton of damage onto Swish. Interesting fight. A 4 for 2, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Where did that happen?
It looks kind of poor with Kraton looking like he went in 1v4 for basically a suicide attempt steal onto an Ocean Drake. It's not really that valuable at this point, so you're thinking, Kraton, what are you doing? But he's really just buying time for his team. You saw James rocket jumping in aggressively. Unfortunately, he does fall, but he does just enough damage for double buffs to be stolen off of the Skarner, go right onto Soul Rush, and Soul Rush put out the pain. Meganar TP'd in. Really nice play. Remember how we talked about this? Skarner, yes, you can grab a priority target like James, but you better be ready for a re-engage if you're not expecting this Gnar to come in with Meganar. He slams 2 people into the wall. They pick up a couple extra kills, and yeah, it's a massive advantage that actually goes over to the University of Utah. Now James is 2-1-1, 2-0-2. 2 quick assists and kills going over to this Azir pick, and he's finished that natural suit. He's going to be really strong already.
But you have to question whether James was the right pick there, because Azir did fantastic work. Soul Rush dealing a ton of damage in that last fight. I know James will become a problem, but Azir will scale. That attack speed and those soldiers, it's going to happen. So maybe, you got to be really careful. Like you were saying earlier, right? It's not necessarily that you just pick the first low health target. You got to choose, and you got to choose the timing. It's really important.
Yeah, and it was already after the Emperor's Divide had come through from Soul Rush that that Barcode here on the Skarner went for Tristana, and he was already really low health when he went for that. So the interesting choice there that I think is just not optimal is choosing to go for anyone other than Azir at that point when he's already used Emperor's Divide, because then if you pull him into your team can kill him without the threat of him tossing priority members to the other side, right? You're not going to have that happen, and so it's really important for that to be the case. So interesting decision making here, suboptimal indeed by Barcode here on the Skarner, maybe out of practice, maybe he's just had too much time spent here onto that Shyvana. He's not doing terribly. He's keeping up in CS. He's really close in total kill participation. I mean, he's 100% kill participation for his team, but he's still a little far behind this Sejuani. I keep trying to say Shyvana because I'm talking about that other pick from Barcode, where he did perform really well in games 1 and 2, especially number 2, where he went unstoppable and basically 1v9 carried the entire match. But here we are looking at game 3. This is the all or nothing game, right? The gold lead is really, really not there. Oh, nice toss.
Speaking of, that is the Emperor's Divide right underneath the turret. A lot of damage. Barcode is there against the suppression, but God of Men was right there. Soul Rush pops the cleanse and makes it out alive.
Yeah,
that was Ignite. That's why he popped the cleanse. He had to get rid of the Ignite.
It was a little bit late. He took most of the ticks of Ignite already, but he wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be one more that would kill him. Yes, that was the correct type of play that you need to see out of this Skarner and Zoe combo in the mid lane. They were not on the same page. You saw the reposition, the ultimate, and the Sleepy Bubble Trouble coming through. Sleepy Trouble Bubble coming through from the Zoe, but it actually missed because of the ultimate from the Skarner. He pulled him out of the way, and so there's not going to be the increased damage, there's not going to be the crowd control, and Soul Rush ends up being pulled right on top of God of Men, gets the last couple auto attacks from his Sand Soldiers, ends up taking a 1-for-0. Yes, he lost his Summoner spells, but you wonder, why are Flash available on both of these champions over here for Barcode and God of Men? if he takes a 1v2 solo kill.
Yeah, that is a really good point there. I think that Skarner should have flashed in and got it. The only other champion that was coming up was Adam Josh on the Braum. He wasn't going to get the kill back. So I think that he should have flashed and got it. It would have made it a that 1v1, trading the summoner spells, 1-for-1. I think that would have been a better play. But, the pressure so far is there. Skarner is doing okay. And this is why you pick Azir. Look at the score here. He's 3-0. Zoe is 2-1. He's ahead. He's winning. He's matching Zoe's pressure. That's why you pick this champion.
Yeah, there must have just been, I don't know, some short circuit in the brain of either the coach or just these players in general, being baited by their own misgivings, perhaps, about the Azir pick in this current meta, or somehow the matchups or something. Banning it out from their own mid laner. It's just, it's dumb. It's just dumb. And so to have switched that up here for the final match, Game 3, has been the key to this perhaps victory.
Oh,
nice
and there's
initiation.
the ultimate. That's a great ult from Lulu as we get into the fight. James does slay Lotus, but the ultimate from Varus is there. Oh, James is the target. He gets pulled under turret from Barcode. He flashes away, but gets hit by the Ignite and kill for God of Men. But guess what? Soul Rush is here too. He throws in those Sand Soldiers to shifting... No, sorry. Not shifting sands. But there's the end of the engage. They are going to stop the fight, but University of Utah has full pressure here on this bot lane turret. They're going to get first turret. Ooh, a great block. They're going to get first turret again.
Yeah, that Unbreakable by Adam Josh, saving so much damage from hitting, and of course it's AoE when it lands, so Adam Josh actually saved a lot of damage from happening to Soul Rush there. It's pretty important when they're sieging right there. Despite losing James, they take the first turret here in Game 3, so that's going to be a lot of gold going over. They don't donate it all to Soul Rush, but getting a lot of that extra gold onto this already strong mid laner is going to do a lot. But that's not to say that Zoe's not doing well herself.
No.
She's got 3 kills of her own and is really close in that farm. Infernal.
And so that is what makes it worth. You get your turret, you get the kills, and the perfect way to throw that, and all of those ultimates thrown down onto Varus. There's no way he can get out. James jumps in, but there's Barcode, and boom. God of Men sneaks in there, picks up that kill, and...
That's just the loss in vision, to be honest. The Tristana jumping off of that reset to try and get the Lulu. She doesn't know that you can see the wards now in the jungle, but they weren't there before. There was the pink there, the Tri-Brush was cleared. All of that was just belonging to University of Washington, so they didn't know that on the wings with the Skarner and multiple members, Zoe on her way down was pretty well expected, but the Skarner showing up, and with James still taking tower aggro, gets ulted underneath the turret and ends up falling pretty much for free, didn't even heal. I'm not sure if he flashed. He probably should have healed instantly at the same time, but he just didn't. Right. Just a little bit of a misplay there, but ultimately they get the turret in a 1-for-1 overall. It's pretty good.
It is really good, and that's going to shift everything here, right? They're going to try and move their bot lane up to another turret that they can take. Tristana very quick, very good with that, with the... Oh my gosh, I'm losing it, man. The explosive shot, it's a mine that she puts on the turret, and it'll deal a whole bunch of bonus damage. Ooh!
That's going to be the broken stopwatch now for Barcode. There's a teleport coming through. This is going to be Meganar. You can see his rage bar's pretty far up there.
He still got James because of the Sleepy Trouble bubble, but there's a great Gnar into the team. A lot of damage, but Gnar goes down too. There's a good stun down onto Oppa, and the fight is there. Varus is dishing out the damage, and there's another Drowsy cleanse instantly pop. God of Men went back in. Does pick up the kill on the Braum, but Kraydon can't get the kill onto God of Men. He's the only one alive. He's got to get out of there. He is ignited, and they are on the chase. Speed up from based Hune. A couple auto attacks and burns the flash. Kraydon, will he make it all the way out?
What could have been such a good fight for Utah ends up being a disaster. James, no QSS yet, despite being ulted twice now to his death. That was his 3rd time now getting ulted and dying because of it by this Skarner pick, and he just gets instantly deleted on the front end of that fight. Soul Rush runs low on mana by the end of that fight and can't actually take the 1v1 against a Varus that flashes away from the soldiers. That's going to be essentially just short of an ace. Kraydon getting away with his life by flashing away. But watch this happen. Okay, so you see the TP begin to come through as Mega Gnar is primed, but you can see Maokai on the side here. He's going to start with his ultimate by getting onto multiple members. That's a nice Emperor's Divide, but you can see James already got completely deleted. The Emperor's Divide served to help push him back into the enemy, and you can see there's not a lot of resist for that Gnar. He gets deleted as well, and look at the mana bar for Soul Rush. Despite having Presence of Mind, he's just not going to have the mana pool to take this fight. God of Men flashes out, gets away, nice stopwatch on the side to not fall to Kratos, and you can see that Varus takes that 1v1, essentially a 2v1 with Lulu still alive. It's just a poor turn of events here for University of Utah. They almost set up a very good fight, but James, no QSS. Emperor's Divide was good to create some space, but ultimately it ends up pushing James into the enemy.
And the biggest thing is it was a great buffer with the rocket jump to try and dodge it, but here's another, perfect flash from Swish. He gets pulled in, he gets ulted by Maokai, but there's a good knock-up from Kratos. Mega Gnar is almost there, throws out the boomerang. There's a good ultimate down onto Barcode. Barcode is there. He is fighting Sejuani, but Sejuani is so much stronger. Kratos dealing so much damage. A good disengage. Oh, wet noodle fights there too, I guess.
Yeah,
because
they were just
so many tanks.
Yeah, they're just trying to buy time for Soul Rush to make it there. But look at Soul Rush. He just barely got some mana back from a level up, and he actually just is so far gone when it comes to keeping his mana available to him. Even if he showed up to that fight when he did, he had like maybe 100 plus mana to contribute to that fight. I mean, really well done, honestly, by Swish and Kratos to buy that time and to force a flash even from Barcode here on Skarner. But in the end, there was nothing gained by Swish and Kratos. They turned around what should have been probably a kill onto Swish. He bought a lot of time and used his Mega Gnar his rage really properly. But you know what? Soul Rush, look again. He's recalling now with 0 mana. How is he going to make sure that this isn't the name of the rest of the game here, where he's just going to not have the mana necessary to contribute his massive amounts of damage to these teamfights? He's going to be a lot more careful about what he does when he farms so that he makes sure he has enough mana remaining to contribute to the fights when necessary. That happened the last team fight in that little skirmish there in the river. There wasn't much he could do. He's got to hold on to his mana pool.
Dive underneath the turret. There's the jump in, the ultimate, and Tristana is taking a lot of damage, but he gets the kill onto Barcode. The ultimate goes on to Lotus, and now it's Adam Josh all alone. Will he make it out? He throws back the Winter's Bite, and that's a 1-for-1. No, that is a 2-for-0, I should say. Soul Rush picking up God of Men on the other side.
Yeah, I want to get a replay of this because there were a couple sides to this fight, but James beautifully standing and positioning behind Adam Josh's perfect Unbreakable. He puts up that shield, blocks multiple spells from Lotus, and a lot of those auto attacks as Lotus is trying to instantly delete James. And despite the great suppression here from Barcode onto James, there wasn't enough damage because a suppress is one thing. It's a great crowd control, but James is healthy enough because of Adam Josh. So really well played by the 2 members of this bot lane. And honestly, being able to survive bought enough time for the other part of this fight to go well for University of Utah as well. So you can see this nice Unbreakable, that shield, creating so much extra tankiness and blocking so much damage. You can see that James gets away with 100 health or less, and that's going to mean that Zoe gets baited into trying to take this fight. She thought that they'd be at the turret already with a couple of members maybe taken down from Utah, but it's the other way around in a 2-for-0.
Fantastic fight. 4 kills up, University of Utah. And this is the change that needed to happen, right? They were so dominant in Game 1. Game 2, they got trounced. And now they're showing what they showed the first game. Their first 2 turrets, they have 2 Fire Drakes. They're 4 kills up. And they set James up to succeed. That damage he put down onto Skarner, because he rushed the Trinity Force, good damage for him, but he's not tanky enough to fight right now. He can't dive the turret as easily. You grab him and get out as best you can, but you were right. Adam Josh saved that entire fight. Perfect Unbreakable, giving him the resistances from the stand behind me, but I think we need to see a little bit more from this Skarner.
Yeah, you can see James has his crit chance on him. He's got the Static Shiv on top of that Infinity Edge. He's finally broken the point where in the game he can put out a lot of damage. And you see the wave clear there from the Static Shiv as well. But more importantly, you can see winning that team fight in that bottom lane netted them a second Infernal Dragon. Ooh, that's a lot of damage from God of Men. You know that the Sleepy Bubble Trouble is Trouble Bubble. Man, I keep doing that. Sleepy Trouble Bubble is going to do a lot for them on any target they catch, even this tanky Braum. But I want to talk more about how this draft has turned out for University of Utah. Soul Rush is dominating. He's putting that performance we knew he could from this Azir pick, even though James, not having a QSS still, he's trying to farm up for it now. He's got that. He's got it almost ready. No Magic Mantle, I believe, was in his inventory already.
Yeah.
Then he's probably basing for it right now. And now, with QSS on James, if they keep going for him, he doesn't get instantly deleted in these fights, especially if Adam Josh plays the fights like he did in bottom lane in that last little fight. It's going to go really, really well from University of Utah. They've kind of unlocked their team composition at this point, and the win condition suppress move from this Skarner is not going to do the trick if University of Utah can play to their win condition, which is honestly sacrifice who you lose and kill the enemy backline anyway. Because full damage Skarner, Trinity Force Rush, not even completing that jungle item, Trinity Force Rush Skarner can actually get melted if you have either Soul Rush or James, let alone both, hammering on him for just a couple of seconds. He finally completes that Cinderhulk, but these fights could go differently.
I also like the itemization on Sejuani. First item, Knight's Vow, not the Warmogs.
Ooh.
Wanting to get that extra armor and the resistances from the damage dealt by your partner. Oh, that damage was sick!
Oh
Has a flash from base Hoon, and now that's a lot of damage coming onto Adam Josh, and the ultimate from Maokai is there. Root onto Gnar, but James is back there free hitting. Kraton is in, the engage is there. God of Men is throwing down the spells, but Opa gets killed. Soul Rush is finally up here. They grab Sejuani in the ultimate. Flash there is worthless. Barcode picks up another kill. Now they've got Soul Rush in there. It is a 4v4 up on the top lane underneath this turret, but Adam Josh is really low. They got to be careful.
Yeah, that was a 1-for-1 overall, and they used the Skarner ultimate already, so that's why you can see University of Utah is not afraid to keep this siege going. They know that they have a push setting up in the bottom lane, so that wave in the bottom lane is going to stack in favor of Utah, going to be pressuring that outer or inner turret, excuse me, on the bottom side of the map if they keep this here. And you can see Adam Josh, perfect unbreakables. That shield that he puts up stops all incoming projectiles and reduces their damage by like 80+% at this point in the game. And so he's stopping a lot of the damage that could come through from Paddle Stars, from multiple auto attacks from Lotus. And honestly, it's doing work in these fights. That's the only reason he survived when he did. And yeah, Swish using the Bubble Trouble to give himself bonus damage to take that scuttle.
Cool.
But Adam Josh's Unbreakables have been game-winning, fight-winning for free. And watch closely in these next few fights over the next few minutes here, because I guarantee you that will be the spell that you need to see being used perfectly. Because Lotus has unlocked his champion at this point. Varus, 3-item Varus with Zerker Greaves and an Ardent Sensor Lulu with Whimsy to boot. That's going to be a full DPS Varus being able to nail people who are within his auto attack range. But if Adam Josh can keep up the Unbreakable, those auto attacks deal next to no damage. Yes, they'll stack up the Rageblade passive, but for the duration of Unbreakable, the DPS just won't be there. Knight's Vow now connects onto James. He's going to be the one that will heal up Kraton. And you saw how poorly it went last fight. You now got QSS on the 2 main damage threats of University of Utah. Barcode doesn't really have a good choice to ult anymore. Last fight, he actually ended up using that spell, his ultimate, to pull Kraton in, who had already gotten pretty low. Didn't have a Warmogs. I'm not sure if that was the smart choice. Yes, they ended up netting 1-for-1, but how are these next fights going to go? Jihadre, talk to me. How is it possible for Washington to win a team fight if the back line 2 damage threats who are actually really far ahead in terms of their items can't be pulled into the enemy team?
We got to get some tankiness on Skarner. He's only got the hit points from the Trinity Force and the Cinderhulk. He's your tank. Maokai has a bunch of armor, yes, but you need the 2 of them. That was the whole point. Skarner is an in-your-face engage. That's why they changed him the way they did. He needs to be heavier built. He's got damage right now. Why would you build damage when you have Zoe and Varus, especially because he rushed that Rageblade? It's just, I think it's a wasted stat right now. He needs to get a lot tougher to kill before they can win a fight.
All right, the 4th dragon has now respawned, and you can see Swish has started it up. I like this choice. He's not contributing additional damage beyond what his Rage Blade can take as he's going to transform. Will they take this fight? Mega Gnar is available and Flash is up. James is on the front line. He's looking to poke a little bit. Adam Josh gets a nice initiation. No, he's going to back off, and that's going to be a nice bubble. Landing on a Soul Rush, you can see the Leandry tick actually does a significant amount of damage, and they're looking for this Baron now. So we got to see how this fight is going to go. Remember, Swish just devolved, if you will. He lost his rage. It's going to take a while for him to knock that back up, and that's going to be the Mega Gnar being a key spell, a key... Oh my goodness, Kraydon misses his ult, but they're right onto this fight.
Kraydon is pulled in, but he's the tanky one, and there's the other tank. Oppa is caught next, and Barcode and Kraydon are both down. Junglers down for each team. A good disengage there. 1 for 1.
Junglers are down. Baron is on the table, but there's no smites for either of these teams. As you can see, Soul Rush is looking to try and get some poke, but this is pretty scary for both these teams. They're a little bit split here in the river. Watch out for that bubble field. And you can see, James is split from his team as well. There's a lot of summoner spells still available, but with both junglers down, Baron's definitely not going to be the choice for either of these teams. They're going to reset, look for another fight. This next one could spell the end of the match. We're 30 minutes in. You saw 40-plus second death timers approaching 1-minute-long death timers now at 30 minutes in. That dragon was taken. That's 3 Drakes now in 6 minutes. At 35 minutes, you're going to see the Elder Dragon spawning. That's going to be a lot of true damage burn if University of Utah can secure it. And you can see right now they have relatively better vision control on both Baron and Dragon. These neutral objectives are the name of the game at this point. These 5v5 team fights are going to be so strong. As you can see, Swish is down there. Opa's going to try and match this split push thread. But you know that at this point, with a Black Cleaver and other items, this Gnar is a split push threat. Mega Gnar are completed. Teleport is available for both of these split pushers.
That's what I was going to say.
They are starting up the Baron because they have Mega Gnar available. How will this go?
This needs to be really careful on the side of Washington. The TP is coming up. That's a good ultimate onto Barcode. They're still fighting the Baron. Swish is there. Mega Gnar is down. They need to be really careful. Do they have the DPS? There's the ultimate from Maokai. Emperor's Divide, but that's the Baron for James and the University of Utah. Barcode is down.
Reset.
That's another down. Lulu's going down. That is 3 kills to nothing. James is uncontrollable. Lotus is down. Triple kill for James with the Baron. That was the fight.
Goodness, the smite comes through from neither of the junglers, and it's actually going to be James who takes that hit. Drowsy does hit him, but you can see the Unbreakable. This is Adam Josh just doing work with that spell. You saw it blocked the damage, the initiation from the Chains of Corruption. That was such a beautiful engage, that turn off the Baron. That shows you the level of these teams, the caliber of University of Utah shot calling to say, yes, we're down. We're almost done, finished with the Baron, but you know what?
They're going to push.
They're pushing for the win, and now you do have Mega Gnar available. It had timed out in that fight. I want to get a replay before this next explodes. I want us to see how that last fight went.
Oh, he Gnars them away. They just want to end the game.
They are. They're just defending.
There's the damage. It's there. That's the end of the game. University of Utah.
They take the win. I still want to see that last fight because honestly, it went so well. University of Utah takes win. Let's get that replay. Just 5 seconds. Bear with me, viewers. Here's it goes. All right, check your mini-map. You can see all blue members are stacked together down there, and you're going to see this turn. Kraydon is on the Baron. It goes to James, and you're going to see him. The Emperor's Divide creates enough space for the DPS to be going through. The Sand Soldiers doing so much damage. Nice reinitiation by the Braum after already defending his carries. James flashing forward, rocket jumping forward aggressively. Triple kill, almost the Quadra for him, and Zoe just can't do anything if you don't land the bubble onto them. Priority target you need to and delete them first. You know that that fight is not going to go in your favor. So ultimately, that fight was just a blowout for University of Utah. They win 17 kills to 9. What a match. Just barely over 30 minutes. I said the next fight would be it.
Azir.
Azir!
He threw the wall.
Yes.
He threw the wall, and it made a whole nother obstacle for them to go around. You can't go through that wall.
Yes.
And it sectioned off so that Tristana and Azir and Gnar was ranged.
Yeah.
There was so much poke right there. And with Skarner not having a single defensive item, he just died.
Instantly.
That was the problem.
Trinity Force Rush Skarner. He got baited by the last game. He said, I popped off on my jungle champion. I think I'm Shyvana again somehow. He's trying to do a cosplay where he's rushing damage and thinks that he's going to have free resists and build health afterwards. Doesn't work on Skarner.
No.
You don't get those free resists. You don't get the free tankiness that comes from Shyvana, especially if you don't have the dragons, down 3-1 in dragons. So you're right. He gets deleted off the front line. That fight goes beautifully in favor. Honestly, the Sand Soldiers, that Emperor's
Holy
Divide,
cow.
those traffic cops saying, look both ways before you crush because you're getting killed from both sides, right? And that damage coming through, the DPS from both James and Soul Rush on those auto attack based DPS champions, you saw frontline get melted, backline get chased down, and Zoe just being like, oh no, what would I do? You can just imagine her
It was
voice.
almost exactly.
Yeah. I mean, skipping away down Summoner's Rift, being like, I just lost the game. So you just can't do anything with that pick when Soul Rush is so comfortable on it. I mean, honestly, beautiful game there. And honestly, the unspoken plays that Kraydon made some really good initiations. He had 14 assists out of the 17 kills, and one of those kills was his own, too.
And that's what I'm talking about. Sejuani is massive. The initiation from this champion, the
Yes.
durability, the fact that you rush a Warmogs first. Early on into the game, you get that massive healing. With the Cinder Hulk, you're just stacking hit points, so you can take the fights. Kraydon was caught 3 times with the ultimate from Skarner. 3 times.
Yeah.
And they still won.
Yeah, he's just such a tanky frontline. But I'm sorry, Soul Rush, yes, finally. But I'm not going to give him free MVP vote here
No.
from me just for him doing what I've been wanting him to do for 3 games now.
No.
No. Who's my MVP?
Adam Josh.
Yes, it is.
It's Adam Josh, 100%.
And it's not because I'm a support main. It's
No.
because he played his Braum perfectly. You saw him using Locket to stop massive increases in damage, and then channeling instead of using Locket on top of his Unbreakable, he's stuttering those, right? He's saying, I'm going to use Locket when I don't have Unbreakable. I'm using Unbreakable when I don't have Locket. I'm standing in front. Stand behind me, right?
Yes,
He's saying,
exactly.
get behind me, and I'll reinitiate. That last fight just highlighted the level of play coming from that support. We talk about James a lot and his ability to carry these matches, but you can't carry as an AD carry without proper support. Adam
Precisely.
Josh, man, that Braum,
Very good.
beautifully played.
And that right there, that's how you play the Braum. The first game, they had it on the side of Washington. You didn't push the lane because you didn't have the right carry for that. But that's how you do it. You get your carry ahead, let them farm, and then you earn the gold with them, and you save him. You save that carry.
Yeah.
So good on the
Yeah.
Braum.
What a match between these 3 games, 3
Amazing.
beautiful games, back and forth until the end. So congratulations, though, to University of Utah coming out with the win there in a hard, gritty fought match
Yeah,
there
it
for
was
Game
really
3. Their victory coming out true for today. To join us for more esports broadcasts, hit that follow button, of course, for this channel, University of Utah Esports, and you can check us out on social media. The handles are pretty much all the same. You can see those in our graphics here. But also, there's some more information that we did share earlier, but we want to make sure everybody's aware of.
Just re-establishing the PAC-G. This thing is huge. It's going to be great. Go ahead and check that out. The Pacific Alliance of Collegiate Gamers.
Yes.
Check that out. It's at Twitter is @PacificACG. Get the updates. Watch more League of Legends. Watch more of your favorite teams from this side of the United States. Watch these teams again. Even if I'm not a fan of either of them, it's just wow, what great players.
No Flame.
No
but
Flame.
UW is actually the only Pac-12 school that's not joining Pac-G.
Oh, okay.
Why?
I don't know, man.
For
I don't
another
know.
time. But, yeah, and it's not just League of Legends. You can check out Overwatch, Hearthstone, other titles for esports, and there's going to be all of these teams, all these schools for the Pac-G competing against each other, and with this kind of production for you, too. We're going to bring that to you. Again, first broadcast happens February 12th. That's a Monday, a couple weeks from now. Tune in. We're going to have a great showing for you. It'll be League of Legends that day, so tune in for that. But for those of us here at Utah Esports, my name's Superman, Jake Superman Mori. You can catch me on Twitter, on Twitch, pretty much any social media at that handle you see on your screen, at SupermanCasting. Ben, it's been an honor.
Thank you. And Ben Juhadre Sorensen leaving you guys, same thing, at Juhadre at Twitter, and check it all out, man. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, and that's it for us here at Utah. We're broadcasting live from Salt Lake City. Join us again in a couple of weeks. We'll be right back with more action. Don't go anywhere.
others in, and now we're burning down the halls. No, we can't let them win. There's an evil inside, just lurking way down below. And if I can't hold my breath, then I'm bound to become hollow. Can you say that I disappeared? Can you say that I wasn't there?